3 days later. 3 days later. Long Fei, Su Su, Lan Mei, and the others had embarked on the road to Fairy City. As for the elder swordsmen, Xiao Bai, and Ice and Fire, they had no idea where those 3 Long Fei's had gone to. However, Long Fei believed that they would definitely be stronger the next time they met. Yi Mei and the 2 sisters were frantically cultivating the assassination techniques, camouflage techniques, and the illusions created by the appearance of the 2 women that were exactly the same. Long Fei was definitely going to turn them into his most powerful killers. Even if they met Powerhouse of God's tribe in the future, they could kill him in silence. Queen of Blood Moon didn't need Long Fei to explain. She was a woman with a clear goal. She knew who Long Fei's enemy was, and she knew what she had to do. On the flying shuttle heading to Fairy City. If you want to go to Fatry's sect, you must first go there, because the unfamiliar flying shuttle was unable to enter the Fatry sect, so Long Fei and the others could only land at the Fairy City before heading to the Fatry sect to register for the preliminaries. Tandapeo said excitedly, "Boss, I heard that the Fairy City is at least 3 times bigger than the East Imperial City. Just how big of a city is that?" Lan Mei replied, "In the past, there were no Fairy Cities. Those who did not choose the disciples of the Fatry sect will slowly gather together. Time will still turn into the present Fairy Cities. In East Imperial City, the proportion of warriors is only around 1/10, but in Fairy City, it is at half. It can be said to be a martial arts technique for all," Su Su said. "I've always heard my father say that the Fairy City is incomparably huge and that it has all sorts of things. Big Sis Lan Mei, when the time comes, let's take a good stroll around it for 3 days and 3 nights. Hee. I need all kinds of beautiful clothes and jewelry." Hearing that they were shopping, Lan Mei became excited and said, "I heard that there are some that are specially made for maintenance. Their skin is as tender as water. I don't know if that's true or not." "Really? Then you must go and try. I heard that there's even a cosmetic cultivation pill specially concocted for women. A single pill would give you a year of age," Su Su said. Long Fei said, "The 2 of you are still young. There's no need to go and get these things." Su Su looked at her with disdain. "What do you know? Women need to be well maintained." Lan Mei also said, "That's right, we are young now, and our skin is good. But what about in the future? What if you don't want us after you become a yellow-faced old woman?" A string of black lines hung on Long Fei's forehead. The black string was enough to make a bowl of noodles. When it came to shopping, the 2 of them were like the heavens and the earth. Tandapeo looked at Long Fei with a stupefied face and said in a low voice, "Boss, have you brought enough money?" Long Fei slightly said, "What are you bringing enough money for?" Tandapeo said, "Don't you think that you 2 sister-in-law is spending all your money? This woman, it's too scary. I thought that the women of the universal realm would pursue higher things, but who would have thought that it would be the same?" He began to sympathize with Long Fei a little. Long Fei laughed bitterly. Not to mention the universal realm, the women of the 10,000 worlds were all the same. However, in his previous life, Long Fei was poor and had no girlfriend at all, let alone accompanying his girlfriend shopping. It might be nice if he could give it a try. Of course. He regretted this thought when he reached Fairy City. 1 day later, the flying shuttle had flown for countless tens of thousands of kilometers. Long Fei even thought that the Fatry sect was too far away from him. This also showed just how enormous Universal Realm was. I wonder where the old headmaster's Xiaoyao City is? Long Fei thought about what the dean of Donghuang College had asked him to go to at the end. However, even after changing a few maps, he still did not see the location of a Xiaoyao City. I wonder if there is anything important. Forget it for now. It's just a sea-level mission anyway. I'll go when I have time in the future. Long Fei thought. We're here. We're here. Sister Lan Mei, quick, quick. Su Su pulled Lan Mei and rushed down the flying shuttle, as if they were going to run out of Fairy City soon. Tandapeo looked at the dazed Long Fei and asked, "Boss, what are you thinking about?" Long Fei laughed and said, "I'm not thinking about anything. Let's go down." The huge plaza was even bigger than the airport in his previous life. As far as the eye could see, flying shuttles constantly descended and took off. The entire scene was abnormally powerful. Not far from Long Fei's flying shuttle, a gold flying shuttle landed. Under the sunlight, it was extremely dazzling. A man wearing a golden robe walked down from the flying shuttle, followed by a group of small fries. "Big brother Long Fei, hurry up." "Exactly. Don't waste our time shopping." The two girls couldn't wait. "Young master, quickly look. Beautiful girl." Suddenly, one of the lackeys rushed forward and pointed at Lan Mei and Su Su, who were not far away, and said excitedly. The young man's eyes lit up. He quickly walked forward and stood beside Lan Mei, acting as if he was 250 years old, and asked, "Two beauties, where are you going?" Lan Mei retreated back as he pulled Su Su further away, ignoring him. The man walked forward again and said, "Beautiful ladies, I am Wu Tianlong, the third young master of the Wu family. Make a friend?" The two of them wanted to walk further away. However, the group of minions next to Wu Tianlong immediately stopped them in their tracks. Su Su had that kind of delinquent personality. She directly said, "Scram to the side of this, miss. I get annoyed whenever I see you. If you don't leave now, do you believe that I won't break your third leg?" Wu Tianlong laughed wickedly. "Are you going to break my third leg? You have to be on the bed. You can't stop hitting me. I wonder if you can break it." Su Su became angry. Lan Mei shouted, "You better go far away. If not, I will call for help." Wu Tianlong laughed. "Huh." The surrounding lackeys also began to laugh loudly. "Huh. Call for help. Shout. Shout loudly. If you can get someone, I'll eat the shit I pulled this morning. Why don't you see whose territory this is?" At this time, one of the lackeys said, "Young master, this is the flying shuttle from East Imperial City." Wu Tianlong was very unfamiliar with East Imperial City and asked, "Where is East Imperial City? I've never heard of it." "The place where the criminals are imprisoned. The people of the East Imperial City are all descendants of criminals, and all of them are trash." Wu Tianlong laughed even more heartily than before and said, "So, with the trash's land, huh?" While they were talking, Wu Tianlong took a step forward to attack Lan Mei and said with a lewd smile, "Two beauties, don't worry. I, Wu Tianlong, will cover both of you in Fairy City, and I promise to let you enjoy the food and drink the food. Every day will be happy." Without waiting for him to touch Lan Mei, Long Face said coldly, "If that finger of yours touches her, I want that finger of yours to break." Wu Tianlong raised his eyes and stared at Long Fei. It was also at this time Su Su and Lan Mei quickly walked to Long Fei's side and grabbed Long Fei's arm. This action made Wu Tianlong extremely unhappy, and he directly scolded, "Fuck, a mere trash from the Soul Realm dares to bounce around in front of me?" Beat him to the point where even his own mother can't recognize him. Chapter 2936. There's a problem with this sword. Chapter 2936. There's a problem with this sword. Beat him up. Beat him up. A trash from the East Imperial City dares to come to the Fairy City? Let's find trouble. Wu Tianlong said fiercely. Others perhaps he would be a little bit more afraid. After all, there are all sorts of people in the boundless universe. So how could he accidentally offend a certain powerhouse clansman? However, in the past 100 years, there had never been a single powerhouse that had a piece of trash like the East Imperial City. Then what was there to be afraid of? Little brat, you dare act so arrogantly in front of this old man. You're courting death in your construction. Wu Tianlong looked at Long Fei with a cold smile, then looked at Lan Mei and said, "Today, I want the two of you." While they were talking, a few underlings surrounded him. He quickly surrounded Long Fei, bared his fangs and brandished his claws, waved the wooden stick in his hand, and stared at Long Fei with a sneer of disdain. "Brat, are you going to hit the wall yourself? Or do you want us to do it? It's best to be more tactful and obediently kneel down. Otherwise, your ending will be even more miserable." "Haha, why don't you ask who's the boss here?" Long Fei glanced at them and smiled. "Still laughing? Brothers, kill him. You dog, you still dare to smile." Immediately, a few lackeys immediately rushed forward. Their cultivation bases were all Soul Realm, but they were all not higher than Long Fei by several levels. Wu Tianlong was also a soul realm. Soul realm is his opponent. Forget about the soul handle. With Long Fei's current strength, he could even beat any god's elephant state martial artist. However, these fellows did not wait for Long Fei to make his move. Bang, bang, bang. 5 consecutive shots, each at the mouth. As the sound of his voice faded, all of them laid on the ground with their hands covering their mouths and started rolling. Black smoke kept coming out from their mouths. Tandapeo walked out and disdainfully said, "Do you really think that trash like you would dare to provoke my boss?" Wu Qianlong's face suddenly changed, his eyes twisted, and said, "You dare make a move against my men?" Long Fei said, "We've already made our move. What's wrong?" Wu Tianlong shouted, "Do you know who I am? How dare trash like you?" Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Long Fei's body suddenly disappeared. Pa! A resounding slap flew out. 2 large front teeth flew out. Wu Qianlong's entire body instantly turned 360 degrees in the air and heavily fell onto the ground, his mouth full of blood. The 5 finger marks on his face were like 5 indentations on his face. It was an extraordinary amount of pain. Wu Tianlong was in so much pain that he couldn't even scream, because the more he cried, the more painful his face would be. Without waiting for him to get up from the ground, Long Fei stepped forward. "I hate hearing the word trash the most. Don't let me hear it again, otherwise it won't be as simple as a slap." As soon as he finished speaking, with a heavy kick, Wu Tianlong flew 10 meters away. "Let's go. Go and see what is a fairy city." Long Fei smiled faintly. He was in a good mood today and did not try to kill her. The Soul Realm warriors did not have much experience to him right now. Right now, he needed 200 million experience points to level up. A Soul Realm warrior only had a few hundred points of experience points, which was not even enough to fill the gaps in his teeth. Of course, if these people were to continue being despicable, Long Fei would not show them any mercy. "Let's go." I was shopping. The 2 girls were overjoyed. After a long while, Wu Tianlong finally got up from the ground. "Kid, wait and see. Your father has 10 times the power to take it back. Just you wait." Wu Tianlong was in so much pain that he wished he were dead. This is delicious. This looks really beautiful. Wow. Sister Lan Mei, quickly come take a look. Look at this bangle. It's too beautiful. Long Fei was very gloomy. It was very uncomfortable. He would rather go to the deep mountains in the wasteland and not sleep for 3 days and 3 nights to kill the demon beast than to accompany the 2 of them shopping. It was really tiring. Not only was it tiring, he hadn't bought a single item after strolling around for a long time. It was simply fatal. Long Fei really could not understand what were these girls thinking. He said it was good, then haggled again, and finally, if he was the owner of the store, he would even have the heart to kill someone. Tandapeo also had a face of helplessness. Women are devils. "Boss, don't pull me along when you go shopping with sister-in-law. I saw several romantic places on the street just now. I took a glance and saw that the girls' standards were quite high. I want to play around with them." Tandapeo said excitedly. Long Fei said, "Really?" Tandapeo said, "Do you not know how I judge people? Just the girls who are standing outside to recruit guests already have 80 points, and the ones inside, aren't they all extremely beautiful?" Tandapeo gulped down his saliva as he spoke. Long Fei was also interested, but all of a sudden, he felt a strong killing intent behind his back. "Cannons, cannons. I can't believe you are this kind of person. Is that a place where a person can go? Can't you have some potential?" Tandapeo was completely dumbfounded. At this time, Su placed both of his hands on his waist and said, "Big brother Long Fei is right. We can't go to that kind of place." With that, Su went to pick his things. Long Fei was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Tandapeo was also depressed. The fairy city was very prosperous and could be said to be much better than the fairy city. There were all kinds of shops and all sorts of streets. There was a place specially prepared for fighters. Shangwu Street. It was one of the busiest streets in the fairy city, where the goods sold by the shops were all for use by warriors. Su, don't you lack a weapon? Let's go take a look at this one." Lame pulled Su and walked into a weapon shop called Xianwu Pavilion. It was a 6-story building, and its shape was similar to that of the Yellow Crane Tower in his previous life. When he walked in, he saw that there were quite a lot of people gathered there. Most of them were preparing to enter the fairy city for the preliminaries in a month's time. Long Fei looked at the various profound weapons on the shelves, and his heart trembled. Damn, there are a lot of light weapons, they're all not ordinary. I want this demon-suppressing sword. How much is it? 37 million grand Miss crystals. I'll buy it. Lan Mei, Su Su, and Tandapeo were inwardly awestruck. The price of 37 million for a single weapon was not even repaid, and they directly bought it. This weapon, the price was outrageous. Long Fei did the same. Glancing at the sword, he said faintly, "The sword is a good sword. It's just that the blade is a bit weaker." How would I know that? Long Fei was secretly surprised. He blurted out the words very naturally, which was very strange. The man who bought the sword stared at Long Fei and bellowed, "Brat, what did you say? Is there a problem with this sword?" Chapter 2937, Sword of War God. Chapter 2937, Sword of War God. He couldn't help but say it out loud. Long Fei himself didn't know what was going on. At first glance, he could tell that there was something wrong with the blade of the demon-suppressing sword, as if his eyes had some sort of special attribute boost. He did not have much research on the sword Long Fei. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have been able to tell. However, ever since he started practicing with elder swordsmen, his perception had become extremely strong. It was as if every sword was a person, and he could tell with a single glance whether that person was good or bad. Long Fei's words also caused the people of Xianwu Pavilion to quieten down. An old man stared at Long Fei. One of the waiters immediately said, "Brat, you can't speak carelessly." The rough man took his sword and walked in front of Long Fei and said, "I have already paid for it. The sword is mine now. It has nothing to do with Xianwu Pavilion. You said earlier that there's a problem with the sword. What's the problem over there? If you can't explain yourself today, then I won't let you off so easily." Obviously, Rough Man was in a bit of bad mood. He had visited the demon-suppressing sword more than once, and had studied it carefully. There weren't any flaws, and it could be said to be the peak grade 9 immortal weapon. That could be no problem. Su Su's gaze tensed up and became a little worried. Long Fei was not afraid. After receiving the sword, he unsheathed the sword sheath. His fingers gently caressed the back of the sword. His eyes shut. His mind suddenly became calm. It was as if Long Fei was the only one left in the entire world. This feeling was very special. Long Fei was stunned. He actually had the ability to sense swords. Buzz! With two of his fingers, the sword swayed slightly. It produced a humming sound that was very melodious and carried a wave of demonic suppressing power. However, there was a hint of a break in the sound. See you suddenly. Both of Long Fei's fingers stopped at a certain place. His eyes opened, and he said faintly, "This sword's edge was broken. It was repaired up, and the repair was not very good. If it were an immortal weapon of the same level, it would break in one blow." The majority of the people did not understand, as they felt that he was just listening to gobbledygook. However, the old man in the corner had a glimmer in his eyes, and his expression was somewhat excited. As soon as he finished speaking, the center of Rough Man's brows twisted, and he snatched the demon-suppressing sword back. He looked carefully at the place where Long Fei had pointed to, but didn't find any trace of recovery. The waiter shouted, "Brat, how can the immortal weapons that my Xianwu Pavilion has produced be repaired? Are you here to cause trouble? Do you know what kind of place the Xianwu Pavilion is that can make you act so atrociously? Someone come. Throw him out for me." Instantly, 4 men rushed out, each one of them a supreme realm peak realm. The power of Immortal Martial City was many times stronger than the East Imperial City, and the power of Xianwu Pavilion was not simple either. Tandapeo's arm moved slightly, blocking Long Fei's body, and he was ready to fight at any time. Long Fei said slightly, "Whether or not I'm spouting nonsense will be known after testing." Rough Man also shouted and said, "You are right. Try it and you will know." Actually, Long Fei also wanted to know if he could truly know where the sword's Guanjian was from just a glance. The waiter said scornfully, "If you want to try, then do it, little brat. Let's talk first. If you're wrong, then you will have to crawl out of Sien Wu Pavilion." Long Fei said, "Then what if I'm right?" The waiter coldly snorted and said, "Impossible. Every single immortal weapon in the Sien Wu Pavilion is an item forged by the servants of our Sien Wu Pavilion. It's impossible for the situation you speak of to occur." Rough Man said, "Who has a level 9 immortal weapon to give it a try?" Long Fei said again, "No need for tier 9. A tier 8 immortal weapon is enough." Words did not stop there. The Demon Suppressing Sword was a peak stage 9th grade immortal weapon, but now, even a tier 8 immortal weapon was unable to meet it head-on. The waiter was so angry that his eyes blazed. He took out a weapon from the shelf and said, "This is a level 8 Berserker sword. It weighs about the same, but its destructive power is inferior to the Demon Suppressing Sword." Rough Man took the Berserk sword and directly clashed with it with his hands. Clang! The Demon Suppressing Sword shattered. He directly cut off one section. The scene instantly quieted down as time seemed to stand still. Everyone looked at the broken Demon Suppressing Sword in shock. Even the waiter himself was dumbfounded. How could this be? Impossible. Impossible. Rough Man looked at Long Fei, then looked at the broken Demon Suppressing Sword in his hand, and said with a heavy voice, "Thank you." Then, Rough Man walked in front of the counter and threw the broken sword away. "I know that the Sien Wu Pavilion has a powerful background, but if you don't give me an explanation for today's matter, even if I were to die, I will die here." His heart clenched. Actually, no one knew that he was using this sword to fight to the death. If it wasn't Long Fei, then, in the most important battle of his life, he would die. The waiter was panicking. "You said it before, this sword was bought by you. It's broken now, and it has nothing to do with our Sien Wu Pavilion, so return the money to him." Suddenly, the elder in the corner walked out and said calmly. The waiter immediately lowered his head. "Yes, Elder Yi." Yi Qingshan looked at Long Fei and laughed faintly. "Little brother, your understanding of the sword is truly extraordinary. You are right, this Demon Suppressing Sword was indeed repaired. It was only a small gap, yet you found it." Long Fei slightly said, "I just understand a little." Yi Qingshan said, "Little brother is too modest. This old one still has a sword. I wonder if little brother can take a step forward to learn it." Right after Yi Qingshan finished speaking, Lan Mei immediately said, "I can't go." Su Su also said, "If you were to smash his sword and ruin his business, would you be able to eat well if you were to enter?" Yi Qingshan looked at Long Fei and did not force him and said, "Because that sword is too huge, it cannot be moved here. So if little brother is willing, please take a step. After evaluating, regardless of whether or not you can appraise anything, I can choose any immortal weapon in this shop." The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. The lowest grade of immortal weapons on the first level required tens of millions of Grand Mist crystals. This was simply a gift. All of them were extremely envious. Su Su and Lan Mei shook Long Fei's arms, signaling him not to go. Long Fei said, "All right." If they wanted to make a move on him, there was no need to hide it. Yi Qingshan smiled faintly and said, "This old one will thank you first. Follow me." Long Fei followed along and said to Su Su, "Wait for me here. I'll be right back." He followed up. The Sien Wu Pavilion could be considered one of the top spirit artifact pavilion in the fairy city. All of the immortal weapons were in the hands of the master artificers that they served. If it were some ordinary immortal weapons, Long Fei would not even need to appraise them. It must be something special. Long Fei wanted to know what was so special about that sword. Following Yi Qingshan to the backyard, which was very spacious and didn't have any special places, Yi Qingshan took out a black cloth and handed it over to Long Fei, saying, "Sorry for the trouble." Long Fei was blinded. Yi Qingshan also grabbed Long Fei's hand and said, "Follow me." Suddenly, a sound was heard. Long Fei felt like he had fallen into a deep pit. However, a powerful force was holding him back. Moreover, his mind, his sea of consciousness, and any ability to sense anything had all disappeared in an instant. There must be some treasure controlling this place. After a long time, Long Fei stood on the flat ground. Without waiting for him to take off the black cloth, he heard the complaints of a few elders. Yi Qing Shan, why did you bring a stranger into this place? Are you crazy? Long Fei took off the black cloth and looked at the huge and spacious area. A super huge sword at this moment. Long Fei's mind was greatly shocked. Sword of War God. Table of Contents. Table of Contents. Sword of War God. Suddenly, a sound was heard. Just like before, he couldn't help but blurt out these words. Even Yi Qing Shan and the other 3 old men were slightly startled. And then, Yi Qing Shan's eyes flashed and asked, "What did you say just now? His name is Sword of War God?" He was covered in rust. It was hard to see its edge. It was like a rusted iron plate. However, the 4 old men all knew that he was no ordinary person. This was because he had been salvaged from the Sky Sea. Just salvaging it had taken him a full 10 years. It had been here for 3 years. In these past 3 years, they had constantly researched and never understood this sword. They did not even know the name of this sword. When Long Fei said, "Sword of War God," it caused their hearts to slightly tremble. Long Fei nodded and said, "Sword of War God." Long Fei also walked forward, his eyes looking into the cave and a little nervous, and asked, "Can I touch him?" Yi Qing Shan immediately replied, "Sure." Long Fei lightly tapped his finger on the huge sword. In that instant, his true soul burst forth, and all the energy in his body scattered out crazily. That 1 second, the sky was dark. It was a wild battle. The sea was dyed red with blood, and the sky was dyed red with the sun's rays. It seemed as if the end of the world had arrived. One of them had his armor torn open and was bleeding profusely. However, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The sword in his hand was like a piece of straw. He dashed into a million beasts. Fight! Fight! Crazy slaughter. Hiss! In just 3 seconds, Long Fei was unable to hold on for much longer. His fingers trembled as he left the sword blade. At this moment, Long Fei was drenched in sweat. His expression tensed as though he had just come down from a battlefield. Huff, huff, huff. Huff, huff. Long Fei gasped for breath heavily. Yi Qing Shan and the others looked at Long Fei, their eyes all staring blankly. They had touched the gigantic sword before, and could even be said to have touched it every day and studied it every day. However, they did not have the same feeling as Long Fei. "What did you see? Little brother, what did you sense?" The 4 old men looked extremely nervous. Long Fei took a deep breath, calmed the shock in his heart, and said, "Battlefield? It's a huge battlefield." Yi Qing Shan asked, "A battlefield? What kind of battlefield?" Long Fei said, "A battle between heaven and earth, a battle that is simply impossible to win, a battle where one person can fight against thousands, hundreds of millions of beasts, this sword." Hearing Long Fei's words, the 4 of them were even more confused. 1 man against 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000. What kind of concept was this? Just what had this sword experienced? What did this person go through? No one knew. Because when was this sword created? Who was its owner? This person is too fierce. I've never thought that there would be such a powerful person in the world, War God. Absolute War God. This sword, with a unique battle spirit. The soul is a god. Absorb the blood essence of billions of demon beasts. If the blood essence is forged into the sword, it would also become a deity. A will to fight that surpasses all, dominating Ling Tian, unparalleled throughout the ages, definitely a sword of war god. Long Fei said solemnly. The shock that this sword brought him surpassed even the sky sword. This sword was too tyrannical. Hearing Long Fei's words, the 4 of them acted as if they were listening to a gobbledygook and could not understand him at all. All of them were master refiners. After researching swords for a lifetime, their understanding of the sword even exceeded their own, but they could not understand what Long Fei had said. Battle intent, battle spirit. God, billions of strange beast blood essence to forge swords this. What kind of concept is this? What exactly does that mean? Little brother, can you make it easier? The 4 of them looked at Long Fei anxiously. Long Fei caught his breath and said, "The owner of this sword, War God's soul, is inside this sword. He is known as the Battle Soul. This sword absorbs billions of demon beasts' blood essence, and from a sword, it became an extremely huge sword, with blood essence forming the body of the sword. However, these are not the most important things. What is important is the will to fight of this sword. It can be said that its battle intent surpasses everything else. It can make people go crazy, and the higher the person's battle intent is, the stronger the power they can release. However, if you're not careful, you will be bewitched. Because if his battle intent reaches that berserk state, he won't be able to control it and will only be controlled." When the four of them heard this, they became even more dumbfounded. The sword that they had refined their entire lives, and it was actually such a tyrannical sword. Yi Qingshan said, "Then who can use this sword? If you can sense what he has experienced, then he should recognize you. Can you use it?" Long Fei shook his head. "I can't use it. My attainments in the sword are not at the level of a warlord. However, I believe there is always someone suitable for him." Long Fei was unable to control it. At least, he couldn't control it now, and he couldn't even hold it for 3 seconds. This was just a light touch if it was used, not to mention whether he could lift it up. Even if he could, he wouldn't be able to control his powerful fighting spirit. If he couldn't, then it would be under the control of the sword. Yi Qingshan trembled slightly and said, "Many thanks." The three looked at Long Fei and asked, "Little brother, where are you from? Your young age's understanding of the sword has already far surpassed ours. You can't be someone from the God's Tribe Sword Pavilion, right? I'm afraid only the people from the God's Tribe Sword Pavilion would be able to comprehend such a sacred art." Long Fei shook his head. "I come from East Imperial City, so I am just an ordinary warrior." This sentence was very posturing. The four of them shivered. "You are from the East Imperial City?" "No, that place." "A genius like you? You came to the Fairy City to participate in this year's Factory Sex selection?" Long Fei said honestly, "Yes, that's what I meant, but whether I can choose that one is unknown." Yi Qingshan said, "Factory Sex selection is extremely strict, but with your strength, it shouldn't be too difficult." Also, his gaze couldn't help but turn towards a white-robed elder. The white-robed elder laughed faintly and said, "At that time, I have a disciple in Factory Sect. With your understanding of swords, you should be able to introduce him to some of them. Your birth has to be altered a bit. After all, East Imperial City isn't favored, if it's possible for me to." Long Fei bowed and said, "Thank you, Senior. I still want to work hard with my own efforts." East Imperial City was looked down upon by Factory Sect. It could be said, the East Imperial City did not have any status in the Fairy City. Only here did Long Fei understand why Yuan Zhou wished for him to participate in the selection of the Factory Sect. He wanted everyone to see that the people of East Imperial City had cards up their sleeves. The white-robed old man smiled and said, "You're quite ambitious." At this moment, the space between Yi Qingshan's eyebrows tightened. "What's wrong?" Yi Qingshan looked at Long Fei and said, "The people from the Wu family are causing trouble. Little brother, your people have been beaten up." Chapter 2939. One Kick Blast Egg. Chapter 2939. One Kick Blast Egg. Where's that kid? You were so cocky at the beginning, but now you're acting like a cowardly turtle. Call him out. If we don't beat him until he's crawling all over the ground today, I'll give my surname to him. You dog. Wu Tianlong cursed and vented his anger. Very unhappy. When he returned home, he immediately brought reinforcements. If it were not for the fact that he was in Xianwu Pavilion and the power of the Empire didn't dare to move out, he would have immediately killed his way in. "Useless thing. This is my territory. Do you understand?" Wu Tianlong stomped his feet on Tandapeo's face and said proudly, "Trash launcher, continue being arrogant and shoot F*King people again. What era is it now for you to actually train in a launcher, as expected of trash from the East Imperial City?" As soon as he finished speaking, many people in the Wu family burst out into laughter. The surrounding passers-by were also whispering to each other. Someone from the East Imperial City? Isn't the East Imperial City the descendant of a criminal? East Imperial City is just some trash. After all these years, we haven't heard of any outstanding powerhouse. I'm afraid there aren't even any Emperor Strongman-s. You're right. The people from the East Imperial City are acting so atrociously here. They really take themselves seriously. Why don't you take a look at what kind of place this is? No one sympathized. Most people were mocking and ridiculing him. It's because the East Imperial City is weak. In this world, the powerhouse was revered. Similarly, the weakest spot would be mocked in other places, just like the lower planes compared to the universal realm. Tandapeo was firmly stepped on the ground by Wu Tianlong. Tandapeo said fiercely, "Grandson, fight him one-on-one if you dare. Call your father over if you can't win. Is this the fairy city? Wow, he's really King amazing." If he was not suppressed by an old man from the Wu family, he could have pushed Wu Tianlong back into his mother's stomach. You King dare to be so arrogant with your father? Wu Tianlong's eyes turned sinister, his face turned ugly, and he kicked out fiercely. Arrogant, continue being arrogant. Lan Mei and Su Su were also restrained and struggled. Stop fighting, stop fighting. However, Tandapeo said with a look of disdain, "Grandson, just your strength is not enough to tickle grandfather." Wu Tianlong's eyes darkened. It's not enough to tickle you, right? Buzz! A long sword was pulled out and placed directly on Tandapeo's neck. With a single movement, Tandapeo's great arteries would be cut, and he sneered sinisterly. Try again if you don't say anything else. The elder from the Wu clan shuddered slightly. The gaze of the shop assistant from the Xian Wu pavilion tensed up, and he said, "Wu Tianlong, this is the main entrance of the Xian Wu pavilion. If you kill anyone here, not to mention whether or not the officials will investigate, my Xian Wu pavilion will definitely investigate." Wu Tianlong sneered and said, "Your Xian Wu pavilion sure has a lot to handle. It's fine as long as you aren't in your shop, but more than that, it's useless." While they were talking, Wu Tianlong stared at the nervous Tandapeo and laughed coldly. "I beg of you, call me father. If father is happy, maybe I will forgive you and not die." "Shout," Tandapeo asked. "What's her name?" Wu Tianlong replied, "Call me father." "Yes," Tandapeo said. "What's your name again?" Wu Tianlong shouted, "Call me father." "Yes." "Son, what do you want me to do?" Tandapeo laughed out loud. He was not afraid of Wu Tianlong at all. Even if the sword was pointed at him, he was not afraid. Because he is Tandapeo. Because he never admitted defeat. Moreover, he was not afraid of Wu Tianlong's sword chopping down. He still had the battle uniform set that Long Fei had given him. "Young master, you've been tricked by him," one of the lackeys reminded. Wu Tianlong's eyes were filled with anger, and he bellowed, "You dog, go to hell." Anger sword. At the beginning, Wu Tianlong did not think about killing people, but now, he didn't care about anything else. It was too infuriating. Tandapeo's gaze darkened as he lightly bellowed in his heart, "Battle uniform." He did not wait for him to activate the battle uniform on his body. Suddenly, buzz! A huge ice crystal arrow suddenly shot out from the Xian Wu pavilion. Bam! Wu Tianlong, who had aimed for the sword, was instantly stunned. At the same time, boom! With one step, Long Fei's body was covered with a ball of dark red flames, which directly penetrated through the Xian Wu pavilion's door frame and instantly landed beside Wu Tianlong. It came too fast. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. With one leg, he kicked right at Wu Tianlong's crotch. "Kacha, kacha!" The sound of two eggs breaking rang out. Wu Tianlong's entire body was pushed upwards, his eyes stared angrily, and then, as if he had become impotent, he slowly knelt down. His mouth was in so much pain that he couldn't even make a sound. It was as if the surrounding people were all shocked. "Open your mouth wide." After a long time, illo, woo-woo. The pain was so excruciating that he wanted to die. His two hands were tightly clutching the crotch area of the little bird. He was struggling on the ground and rolling on the ground with a pale face. Long Fei grabbed Wu Qianlong's hair with one hand and suddenly raised it, then said with a deep voice, "I said, don't let me touch it again, or else it won't be the result of a single slap." Suddenly, everything was too fast. It was fast. His hand moved quickly. A fierce force. The most important thing was Long Fei's viciousness. He was only at the 2nd level of Soul Realm, and yet he managed to kill Wu Tianlong, who was at the 9th level of Soul Realm, in one move. In addition to the speed at which he went through the wall, it was simply too incredible. The surrounding people were all shocked. When Long Fei finally lifted Wu Tianlong up, the small fry of the Wu family finally reacted and immediately went up to him. "Let go of young master. Kid, are you tired of living?" All of them surrounded Long Fei, but none of them dared to move recklessly. Wu Tianlong said, half dead, "Kill, kill, give me, kill him. Third uncle, kill him. Quick." He was in so much pain that he couldn't take care of himself, but the anger in his heart didn't decrease in the slightest. His talent was average, and his potential was average. It was impossible to enter the Fatry sect, and he had never thought of entering there. He just wanted to be a popinjay and pick up girls everywhere. Second Bro was probably crippled. What was the point of having Second Bro alive? Without waiting for Wu Tianlong to finish speaking, Long Fei's gaze locked onto a person and said, "Come over and try." Long Fei used a lot of strength and directly pulled Wu Tianlong's hair, smashing him onto the ground. Kacha, kacha! Both knees exploded. The blue stone on the ground shattered. Long Fei then grabbed Wu Tianlong's throat. Wu Tianlong was like a dead dog, trembling in pain. Wu Zhong's gaze darkened. "Kid, do you know the outcome of offending the Wu family, a newcomer from East Imperial City?" Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "I don't know. I only know that people are not fierce and can't stand steadily. If others don't offend me, I won't offend them." Wu Zhong slightly said, "Then do you know who was the person you just injured?" Long Fei replied, "I don't know, but I do know one thing. He injured my brother, no matter who he is, even if he is the emperor or my brother." Wu Zhong's expression changed yet again. Suddenly, Wu Zhong's body moved and directly landed behind Lan Mei and Su Su. The corners of his mouth raised as he sneered sinisterly and said, "Fierce? You are still far from it." Chapter 2940, Immortal Grand Court. Chapter 2940, Immortal Grand Court. All of a sudden, a chill hit him. Long Fei's pupils suddenly shrank. Crap. The distance was too far. After 3 months of bitter cultivation, his attributes had changed, but he was still unable to rush over at such a long distance. Not to mention that Wu Zhong's cultivation had far surpassed his. It was impossible to stop them. Long Fei's heart sank, and he cursed, "Fuck!" Amongst the pubes, the killing sword slightly moved and roared. "If you dare touch even a single hair on their head, this daddy will definitely kill your entire family." Humph! The corner of Wu Zhong's mouth hooked up as both his hands moved at the same time, heavily striking the backs of Lan Mei and his head. F***CK. Long Fei clenched his teeth. He did not care about it anymore, and rushed out with all his might. However, too far. There was no way to stop them. It was at this moment. A resounding voice came from the Xian Wu pavilion. "Stop!" As soon as he finished speaking, within a radius of 100 meters, everything. It was as if time had stopped, and Long Fei himself was also being pressed down by a powerful force. He could not move at all, and could only maintain a posture of running forward. It was too hard. It was as if someone had used a body securing technique to stop him. Wu Zhong was the same. The only difference was the power from Wu Zhong's palm shattered instantly, and his mind started to tremble as well as he stared at Xian Wu Pavilion. Half a second later, everything was back to normal. Wu Zhong's body retreated slightly as his palms became powerless and struck empty air. The eyes of the surrounding Wu clan members froze. Wu Tianlong shouted, "Third uncle, kill him for me." Wu Zhong did not move again. Instead, he said in a low voice, "Let them go." The Wu clan disciples did not know how to react. Elder this, let go. Wu Tianlong became even more furious. You can't let go. You hurt my second brother. I want to play his woman to death. Wu Tianlong endured the pain and rushed forward angrily, but, however, he was stopped by Wu Zhong with one hand and said with a deep voice, Tianlong, you cannot offend the people inside. The voice from earlier was not just an intimidating aura. There was also a sound technique. It was even a spatial type of cultivation technique, an existence that could easily suppress him, Wu Zhong, in one move. There was no reason for Powerhouse to kill anyone in this world. Even the officials did not have the authority to do so. They had already shown mercy just now. If they dared to act rashly again, the entire Wu clan would surely die here. Wu Zhong was afraid that Wu Tianlong would anger that Powerhouse again, so he grabbed onto it tightly and said, Tianlong, as long as he stays in the East Imperial City, there will be plenty of chances. Today is not the time. Wu Tianlong struggled frantically as he stared at Long Fei. He had no choice. Wu Zhong's pressure moved and instantly crushed Wu Tianlong, causing him to faint. He looked at Long Fei seriously and said, Let's go. He quickly left. Long Fei's heart also relaxed. He looked at Su Su and Lan Mei. Are you all right? Tindapeo also crawled up from the ground and patted off the dust on his body and said, Damn it, if you can't win, then call yourself a senior, truly useless. Long Fei looked at Tindapeo. Are your injuries serious? Tindapeo grinned and laughed foolishly. Just that kind of trash can hurt me? I'm fine. Long Fei turned around and looked at Xianwu Pavilion. Yi Shan smiled faintly as he walked out and said, Little brother is being too courteous. We just don't want them to affect our business. Although he said it in an undertone, Yi Shan's heart was also secretly shocked. He was even exceptionally shocked because no one knew who he was and no one had ever truly seen his true appearance. Even the master refiners of Xianwu Pavilion, the elders, had never seen his face. This was the first time someone had spoken a word to save someone. Long Fei said, This favor, this brat will remember it. If there's anything I can help with in the future, this brat will definitely give it his all. If not for someone making a move, Lan Mei and Su Su would already be dead. With their strength at a close distance, in a situation where they weren't prepared for it, it was basically impossible for them to resist. Long Fei felt a lingering fear just thinking about it. Su Su and Lan Mei's combat experience was too lacking. At this moment, the voice from the Xianwu Pavilion sounded out once again. I have something that I would like to ask for your help with. May I ask if you have the time? Long Fei said, Kid, you have time. How could he repay someone's debt of gratitude in time? Long Fei did not like owing anything to others. The Xianwu Pavilion Lord said, All right, Elder Yi, arrange a place for them to stay. Yi Shan immediately nodded and said, Okay. At the Wu residence, a doctor walked out from Wu Tianlong's room and took a deep breath. Several middle-aged men walked up. One of them, a man with sword-like eyebrows and a domineering aura, asked, How is my son? I have managed to preserve my lifeblood, but I'm afraid it will affect the birth in the future. The doctor's words were very tactful, but in reality, both his pills have been shattered. Fertility? I'm afraid I can't even do my personnel. Wu Tianlong also heard it and immediately let out a howl. I want to kill him. I want to kill his entire family. Father, mother, send someone to kill him. Wu Ba's eyes became serious. Breaking the descendants of my Wu family? Third brother. Why didn't you kill him back then? Wu Zhong immediately said, Big brother, Xianwu Pavilion's Grand Court has made his move. Xianwu Pavilion? Wu Ba's face slightly shivered. He knew a little about the Grand Court, and he could not afford to offend this person. Wu Zhong said, The one who beat up Sky Dragon has already been arranged to enter the Xianwu Pavilion. It is not easy for us to take action now, but as long as the brat is still in Fairy City, I will definitely take revenge for Sky Dragon. Wu Ba let out a long breath and said, Get someone to keep an eye on that brat. This matter can take a while. I don't have hope for Sky Dragon. You should intensify your training with the Heavenly Tiger. This year, Someone from our Wu clan must enter the factory sect. Wu Zhong immediately replied, yes. There was still one more month before the preliminaries, so time was tight. It could be said that all the young warriors in Fairy City were working hard for the selection competition. Boss, what is the background of this Xian Wu Pavilion? I just investigated. Although the Wu family is not the strongest family in Fairy City, they're still a first-rate family, and they were scared by a shop selling weapons. Isn't this too unbelievable? Tandapeo asked in confusion. Long Fei was also puzzled. Right now, he was thinking about what the Grand Court wanted him to do after all. Or was it about the Sword of War God? He had already analyzed the Sword of War God very clearly. Moreover, a person who could use that sword, unless they had extremely strong willpower, would definitely be confused by the sword's fighting spirit and fall into a demonic path. Simply put, it couldn't be used. However, if the Sword of War God was swallowed by his own killing sword... Actually, when they saw the Sword of War God, the killing sword among Long Fei's pubes started to throb. Long Fei could feel the killing sword drooling. The super battle intent of the Sword of War God, the God-tier battle soul, and the sword body made from billions of beast blood essence that he had absorbed were definitely great supplements to the killing sword. However, it was impossible to give such a sword to Long Fei. The amount of time spent digging, the expenses, and his power added on top of that, the value of the Sword of War God were all astronomical. Humph! Long Fei looked at the night sky and muttered, "It's useless to guess now. We'll know tomorrow." Long Fei walked into the room. Tandapeo's figure disappeared into the darkness. He never slept in his room. When Long Fei was sleeping, he would usually stay hidden in the shadows. The night passed silently. The next morning, Yiqing Shan sent someone to deliver breakfast, then looked at Long Fei and said, "Kid, that kick of yours is truly irritable. That Wu family disciple is already crippled." Su Su muttered. "Serves you right," Tandapeo said. "If it wasn't for Boss wanting to keep a low profile, he would have died long ago." Cough, cough, cough. Yiqing Shan began to pant and said, "You're still keeping a low profile?" The Wu family's influence in the Fairy City is not that simple. Just the factory sect alone has 3 Wu family disciples, and 2 of them have already stepped into the Emperor realm. The power of the Fairy City family does not depend on how many people you have, nor how much money you have, but rather how many disciples you have in your family who can enter the factory sect. The more disciples there were, the higher the cultivation, the higher the status the clan held. To have 3 disciples meant that the family was very powerful. At least in the northern part of the city, the Wu family was a first-rate family. Tandapeo and the others frowned slightly. Yiqing Shan laughed lightly. "Don't worry. Right now, the Wu family is fully training the disciples that will be participating in this year's selection competition. That brat Wu Tianlong is just a playboy that isn't liked in the Wu family. For the time being, the Wu family will not have time to deal with you. But you better not leave the clan easily, otherwise our Xian Wu Pavilion will not be able to protect him." Long Fei expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, Elder Yi." Yiqing Shan laughed. "Don't thank me. This is also the intention of our Grand Court. You guys can eat first. If it's not enough, just send someone to say it." Finished. Yiqing Shan left. Su Su muttered to herself, "I still want to buy some pretty clothes today," Tandapeo said angrily. "Just buy it. I want to see who from the Wu family dares to come. This time, I will definitely defeat him in one shot." He expressed his displeasure. Because Zhu Tian was ambushed, adding the lack of distance, it was impossible for him to use his launcher. Long Fei said lightly, "Rest here for a few days and don't go out." Safety was the most important thing. Furthermore, what's the situation in Fairy City? Long Fei didn't understand it at all. Where Fu Shishan was, whether her business alliance of Fu family had made it into the Fairy City was unknown. Everything had to be done carefully. Long Fei thought, "Looks like I have to level up my battle uniform. If not, I won't be able to rest easy with them." Tandapeo's temper was too explosive. She was about to start a fight if there was any disagreement. Lan Mei and Su Su didn't have much experience in the martial arts world, so they would easily be at a disadvantage. But no high-quality materials, Long Fei frowned. Material? It's a problem. The sword of War God is so big, they won't be able to finish all of it. If we can use it to make a new set of armor. Long Fei was secretly a little excited. Yesterday night, he thought about that sword of War God. He was thinking about that huge scene. Who was that man? That scene, above the sky sea, one man against billions of strange beasts. And each beast is a peerless existence. When Long Fei thought about that scene, his mind couldn't help but tremble. It was too shocking. The first thought that anyone could come up with to deal with billions of strange beasts was to run away, but he was the one who was going to kill them all. How powerful must he be? How much experience did he have? Long Fei laughed. In the evening, Yi Qingshan brought dinner and said to Long Fei, "Grand court has come." Long Fei trembled slightly, casually ate a few mouthfuls of rice, and said, "Let's go." Lan Mei and Su Su looked at Long Fei and said, "Be careful." Long Fei nodded his head. "And you guys can stay here for a few days first, cultivate properly, and wait for me to come back." Following behind Yi Qingshan, Long Fei seemed to be deep in thought. In his heart, he was still thinking about that gigantic sword of War God. Not long later, walking to a remote courtyard in the Xianwu Pavilion, Yi Qingshan said lightly, "Wait here, the Grand Court will be here shortly." After which, he walked out of the small courtyard. When Yi Qingshan left, the door of the small courtyard suddenly opened, and an elegant man walked out. The man wore a mask and looked at Long Fei. "You're not good looking, don't mind it." Long Fei did not exchange pleasantries, and directly went into the main topic. "What does Grand Court want me to do?" At this time, Grand Court walked down the stairs and said, "There's a divine weapon appraisal assembly today. I want you to participate in it on my behalf." Appreciating divine weapons? Long Fei tensed up slightly. Grand Court said, "I saw your appraisal of the sword of War God yesterday. Not bad. It was just as you said. The name of that sword was indeed the sword of War God. We can also call him the #1 war god of the ancient era, but he didn't stop the billions of beasts. He failed." Long Fei was shocked. He only stayed on the sword for a few seconds, only seeing a few images. He did not have the strength to see all the images. If he could see all the images, then this person's cultivation must be exceptionally strong. Long Fei said, "Grand Court's taste is much better than mine. Then why do you need me to fight in your place?" "Ha ha." Grand Court smiled and said, "Smart. This divine weapon appraisal assembly is a little special. If I make even the slightest mistake, I will die. I don't want to die." Grand Court was very direct and didn't hide anything from Long Fei. Long Fei said, "Seems like it's quite dangerous." Grand Court said, "It could be said that it is a narrow escape. To appraise a divine weapon, you have to compare your skills and bravery. You can reject it." Long Fei hesitated for a moment, then said, "You just said that as long as I win, you can agree to one of my requests?" Grand Court said, "Yes, as long as I can fulfill any request." Long Fei said straightforwardly, "I want the sword of War God." Grand Court's eyes moved slightly. He thought for a moment and said, "Okay, if you win, the sword of War God will be yours." Wealth comes from danger. Long Fei needed the materials from the sword of War God. Killing sword needs it. He also needed materials to make the armor. Moreover, appreciation of the divine weapon. Just what sort of divine weapon was it? Was it able to be ranked in the top 10 Grand Mist weapons? Many of the universal realm's divine weapons came from the God's design attic. So how could there be a person from the God's design attic? Long Fei also wanted to see it for himself. Chapter 2942, Selection of God's Design Attic. Chapter 2942, Selection of God's Design Attic. Appreciation of the divine weapons was not an ordinary appreciation assembly. It was a gamble. What you bet on is your ability, and what you bet on is the life of the connoisseur. A little carelessness could cost him his life. Ever since he absorbed the Earth Elf Spring, Long Fei's personal attributes had changed. He now had a lot of abilities that he did not even know about, as if he suddenly had a superpower. In addition, he had practiced the sword for a month. Long Fei held the incomparably heavy embroidered sword in his hand for 3 whole months. Every single drop of sweat and every single drop of blood that flowed out from the gaping hole in the palm of his hand was all absorbed by the embroidered sword. This allowed Long Fei to feel the sword-intent world, to be able to see through the crack in the demon-suppressing sword with a glance. He had to only be able to see the world within the sword of War God. However, Long Fei could only do this to the sword. What if it wasn't the sword that was being appraised? Then could he appraise it? Grand Court grabbed Long Fei's arm and then moved. Whoosh! In an instant, Long Fei was lifted up into the air, and, as if space itself moved, he instantly appeared beside a flying shuttle. It was almost suffocating. Long Fei was greatly shocked in his heart. The Grand Court said slightly, "The appraisal meeting is not in Fairy City, so in order to save time, we will fly over there." Long Fei looked at the flying shuttle in front of him. It was different from an ordinary flying shuttle. It was just like the flying shuttle in his previous life. As the two of them entered, Grand Court's idea activated. In almost an instant, the flying shuttle disappeared as if it had leapt through space. Seeing Long Fei's astonished expression, the Grand Court said indifferently, "This is a third-grade flying shuttle. Its speed is 5 times that of an ordinary flying shuttle. If you like it, I can give one to you next time." A third-grade shuttle. The price is 1 billion grand mist crystals. Long Fei laughed. "Then I must be alive to come back." Grand Court looked at Long Fei and said, "I believe you." Long Fei said, "Grand Court, I only have an extremely high appraising ability towards swords, if it is not swords." Without waiting for Long Fei to finish speaking, Grand Court said, "Don't worry. This time we will be appraising a sword. This sword comes from a mysterious domain, and the mysterious materials, how to refine it, and any flames, you could say that they are all unknown." Just a sword? Long Fei was slightly shocked. He had thought that divine weapons appraisal would be at least a lot of divine weapons. He did not expect it to be a weapon. Grand Court said, "That's right. You must remember, people don't kill, the sword does. This sword has a special power. Once you are unable to appraise it, you may be killed by the sword. What I'm talking about is not gambling with your life, but that the sword can take your life." Long Fei nodded his head. "I will remember." The shuttle flew through the clouds at high speed. After traveling for who knows how many kilometers, Long Fei felt that he was able to travel even further than he was when he met the East Imperial City. "He's here. The people from Xianwu Pavilion are here. Damn, I have to wait for so long." That's right. What is the Xianwu Pavilion? If not for the Fatry sect, would he have the qualifications to participate in this appreciation assembly? Deep in the mountains, a flat ground, stood a few elders, each of them wearing a mask, surrounded by a pile of ancient ruins. The ancient pillars broke into countless pieces. Under the moonlight, one could vaguely see the carvings of dragons on the pillars. The valley was very small. The ruins were only about 100 square meters in area. The shuttle stopped. Long Fei changed into a new set of clothes and also walked down while wearing his mask. The Grand Court of the Xianwu Pavilion is indeed extraordinary. One person made so many of us wait. I don't know who gave you face. If not for Fatry's sect, you wouldn't even be qualified to participate. Cut the crap. He's just looking to die anyway. Don't tell me he's able to appraise that holy artifact with just his smithereens? Ha ha, ha ha. Many of the people around started to laugh, as they were slightly displeased with Long Fei's arrival. Long Fei was not in a good mood as he said in a deep voice, "May I ask what time is the appointed time?" A person said, "It's Z." Long Fei asked, "Then what time is it now?" Another person looked at the sky, Haiwu. Long Fei swept his eyes over those people who were sneering just now and immediately scolded. "It's not time yet. What are you laughing at? Your grandmother's legs? Did this daddy make you wait? F***CK. He immediately cursed furiously. The surrounding people were stunned. They stared at Long Fei with anger in their eyes. The Grand Court in the dark also shivered slightly. Long Fei did not care about anything much. Not to mention, he was not Long Fei, but Grand Court. Xianwu Pavilion Master, I'm afraid you don't want to leave this place alive today? A small weapon seller. You're pretty unreasonable, aren't you? I'm giving you face, aren't I? Arrogant in front of us. Don't you know who you are? Long Fei swept them with a cold gaze and said, Are you still appreciating it? If you don't want to appraise, then I'll leave first. He turned around and was about to leave. Cough, cough, cough. Wait. At this time, an old man walked out from the darkness. Seeing the old man's surroundings, everyone shivered. Their eyes revealed respect, not daring to say a single word. The old man looked old, and his eyebrows were raised on his face. His face was full of wrinkles. He walked to the middle and said, Since everyone is here, let's begin. This divine weapon is different from the others. He has an extremely strong self-defense awareness. If you're not careful, you will lose your life. You should be careful. The people around him said, Don't worry, we will definitely do our best. There is no divine weapon that I cannot appraise. Even if there's a God's tribe divine weapon, I can appraise it. The appraisal is out. Can we really enter the God's design attic? Or was it just a joke? Hearing the 3 words God's design attic, Long Fei's heart suddenly sank, and he thought to himself, as expected, the Sky Sword Spirit had said before that if he wanted her to revive, he would have to go to the God's design attic, find the heavenly mystery, and let him reforge the Sky Sword's heart. Long Fei had always kept this matter in mind. However, the universal realm was vast and boundless. There were many places that he didn't even know how to go to. Now, finally, he had an idea. The old man nodded his head and said, The rules of the God's design attic have always been like this. This is the topic of entering the God's design attic this year. Whoever can appraise it will have the qualifications to enter the God's design attic. Everyone's eyes lit up. God's design attic was the ranking list of the universal realm's divine weapons. It was also the origin of divine weapons. The rankings of the universal realm's divine weapons were all planned out by the God's design attic. In addition, the God's design attic also had the strongest divine Grandmaster Blacksmith in the world, the supreme existence. Even the God's tribe did not dare to look down on the God's design attic. If one could enter the God's design attic, this would be the ultimate dream of every artificer. Even the God's tribe would think highly of him. That was their goal. It was also the goal of Xian Wu Pavilion. All right, let's begin, Old Man said lightly. Everyone, leave it to fate. Chapter 2943, Life-Threatening. Chapter 2943, Life-Threatening. Old Man slowly retreated a few steps. And then, 4 young men dressed in God's design attic clothes walked out and stood in 4 different directions. Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, Black Tortoise. The 4 stood still as the Azure Dragon moved first. The breath of true spirit on its body continuously condensed and gathered in the air above the center of the empty space. The Vermilion Bird followed closely behind and poured into the breath of true spirit. White Tiger, Black Turtle also started to move. The 4 powers gathered together and formed a spirit whirlpool. The 4 of them muttered to themselves. Suddenly, the 4 of them exerted their strength in unison. They pressed their hands together and directly hacked the ground. The ground formed an electric net, and the lines of power not only shot out. Buzz! A droning sound filled the air. Ancient runes began to appear on the surface of the ground. It was like a gigantic seal spell. The dust on the ground slowly disappeared, and the entire seal appeared. The crowd continuously retreated, revealing astonished expressions. No one would have thought that there was actually a seal array beneath their feet. What was even more unimaginable was that the divine weapon they wanted to appraise was right under their feet. They thought it was a divine weapon brought by the God's design attic. Long Fei's heart tensed up. This rune, why do I feel that it's a little familiar? You've seen it there? In the end, where did I see it before? Could it be that it's from the memories of the seal again? No. Suddenly, Long Fei's pupils constricted. The idea moved and directly entered the God's tribe space ring. That huge coffin. The runes on the coffin are somewhat similar to the ones on the ground. The Azure Dragon pulled the coffin. That coffin was extremely important to him. After Black and White had killed him, The coffin had fallen into Long Fei's hands. However, he still didn't know what was in the coffin. He dare not open it. The aura inside was too terrifying. Even the current Long Fei did not dare to easily open it, as if the end of the world would befall upon him if he did. Even though it's different, it's about 80%. The runes on the coffin are a bit more complicated, but it's not hard to tell that this definitely comes from a seal faction. Long Fei muttered in his heart. The runes on the ground are extremely huge, and the runes on the coffin are very low, but they are all over the coffin. Boom! Without waiting for Long Fei to ponder over the matter, the ground shook vigorously. The ground began to shake. Next, the center of the seal began to bulge. Slowly, the seal cracked. Buzz! The sword light shot out, and a huge force swept out. Boom! Rumble! Extremely powerful. The surrounding people were all shaken and took a few steps back, as though Long Fei himself was about to be blown away. If not for him hugging a large tree tightly, he would really have been blown away. Looking at Long Fei's displeased expression, many of the people around started to sneer. You are appraising a divine weapon like this? A godly weapon was sent flying before it could even come out. Why are you still trying to appraise a hammer? Exactly. Just you want to enter the god's design attic? Are you qualified? Long Fei did not say anything. He scolded in his heart. Damn, you are all royal realm, emperor's realm, or even higher. I only have soul realm. If it was an ordinary astral soul realm martial artist, he would have already flown over 100 meters away. A sword light shot out in all directions. The ground cracked. In the end, in the blink of an eye, a sharp weapon pierced through the earth and floated in midair. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Sword chimes rang out in all directions, causing the entire valley to tremble. It was as if the entire world had fallen into this sword hum. The long sword that was floating in the air was also spinning nonstop and trying to struggle free from the restraints of power. The 4 disciples of the god's design attic were sweating profusely, not daring to relax. If their power was relaxed, this sword could instantly fly out. He formed a seal with one hand. Boom! The 4 of them roared and released all 4 of their powers at once. That sword also slowly calmed down. The sword gleams and sword hums gradually quieted down. Everyone then heaved a sigh of relief. The old man said, You only have 2 hours. Once time has passed, it will have to return to the seal. Who's going first? Only one of you will be able to enter the god's design attic. As soon as he finished speaking, immediately, an elder stepped forward and said, Let me do it. See Training Pavilion. Pavilion Master Heil Yin, you're only 1 step away from the divine level in artifact forging. He's the strongest person in the Sea Tempering Pavilion for the past 1,000 years. A genius refiner. No one here is simple. If one wanted to appraise a divine weapon, the most important thing was to understand smithing. Only a master refiner would be able to understand a divine weapon and appraise a divine weapon. Moreover, the first to go up had a huge advantage, because once he succeeded, he would be able to enter the god's design attic. The appreciation assembly ended early. The pavilion master walked forward, unperturbed and calm, as she approached the bronze longsword. Huff! The pavilion master heaved a sigh of relief as she closed her eyes. It's starting. Spirit of ocean refinement. It's the unique sensing ability of the Sea Tempering Pavilion. No divine weapon can escape its sensing ability. I heard that the Sea Refinement Pavilion's pavilion master used 100 years and never stopped refining artifact to refine a single strand of the sea refinement spirit. He has a sea refinement spirit that I have never been able to appraise. Looks like we're going to catch a cold. Before he could finish his words, the pavilion master's eyes suddenly opened wide in anger. Her pupils dilated and her body trembled slightly before she stood there unmoving. What's going on? What happened? Pavilion Master Hylian? At this moment, Long Fei suddenly said, Dead. Everyone looked at Long Fei with expressions of contempt. What do you know? It's only been a few seconds. Pavilion Master Hai has yet to perform. Xianwu Pavilion, please go to the side and cool down. He mocked her ruthlessly. The corner of Long Fei's mouth drew back, his arms crossed over his chest as he sneered. At this moment, the old man said lightly, "Pavilion Master Hylian, failure. Take them down." Everyone's face turned gloomy, and Long Fei's eyes became gloomy. Is he really dead? He wasn't sure. He had only sensed it mentally, but he hadn't expected. It's only been a few seconds. Go up and die. How'd he die? The bronze sword did not move at all. It was dead in an instant, and the surrounding people were all dumbfounded. The old man said indifferently, "If someone wants to leave, it's still possible for now. Don't wait until later before withdrawing. Then it's too late." Exit what? This old man will definitely not quit. What's the sea tempering pavilion? I don't think he died from appraising, but from scaring himself to death. Finished. A man with a domineering aura walked forward. Lei Gang's artifact, forging pavilion. Pavilion Master Lei Gang. He exuded a strong aura as he strode forward. His eyes focused on the bronze sword that was floating in mid-air. He roared, "I'd like to see what kind of sword you are." He did not use the idea to sense it, but grabbed it with one hand. At this moment, the other half of his arm was directly shattered from the impact. Blood gushed out madly as his enormous body was blasted away. Bam! Bam! Smashing into a tree, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as a sheet, and cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Looking at his shattered arm, he exclaimed, my hand, my hand. Ah!" Miserable screams of pain rang out. To a refiner, losing a hand was equivalent to losing his or her life. No matter how strong a refiner was, it was impossible for them to forge a weapon with a single hand. The Pavilion Master screamed. Everyone was dumbfounded. Previously, he did not know, but he thought that the God's design attic was scary. Some of them had ugly expressions on their faces, as well as fear in their eyes. However, these people did not bother about Lei Gang, but stared fixedly at the bronze sword. Long Fei walked over to the side of the Pavilion Master Lei Gang and lightly said, "Endure it." He sprinkled some hemostasis powder on his wound, took out 2 heal pill, and said, "I can help you stop the pain." Pavilion Master Lei Gang said with gratitude, "Thank you." Long Fei said, "You're welcome. I want to know what you felt the moment you held the bronze spear." Pavilion Master Lei Gang looked at Long Fei and said, "The power of explosion. The power of explosion." Long Fei's gaze tensed up. Pavilion Master Lei Gang said, "The power of the explosion caused my arm to explode the moment I grabbed it. Xian Wu Pavilion Lord, do not appraise it. That bronze long sword is too strange." He now understood why the Pavilion Master Hai had suddenly died. The power he felt was different from the one sensed by Pavilion Master Lei Gang. Long Fei frowned. Everyone has sensed different powers. If the Pavilion Master did not touch them, she would have simply used her sea refining spirit to sense, and died suddenly. When Pavilion Master Lei Gang tried to sense it with her hand, she immediately blew off an arm. Seems like this sword is really different. Long Fei raised his eyes and looked at the bronze sword that was floating on the ground not far away. Facing this sword of war god, Long Fei could immediately tell that Long Fei had called out its name, but he could not say anything about this bronze sword. Moreover, he couldn't sense anything. Long Fei seemed to have disappeared because of his own special ability. Old Man slowly said, "You still have a chance to choose. You only have one life. I hope you can cherish it." A middle-aged man stepped forward lightly and said, "Allow me." Now, everyone knew how powerful this bronze sword was. It would take a person's life, but no one gave up. Fighters have their own goals. Becoming a descendant of God's tribe meant obtaining the power of the ancient inheritance. Similarly, refiners also had their own goal, which was to enter the God's design attic. Retreating might seem simple, but to an artificer, it might end their advancement and even become a knot in their heart, making it difficult to break through in their entire lifetime. Some things had to be done. Everyone looked at the middle-aged man with cautious expressions. "Huff!" The man walked forward and said with a faint voice, "Come." Finished. The breath of true spirit on the man's body suddenly surged. Rumble! Rumble! The flames immediately began to roll up. The flame moved and wrapped around the bronze longsword. The man's eyebrows tightened as he shouted, "Merge!" At this moment, rumble, for no reason at all, the middle-aged man suddenly caught on fire. He immediately cried out and rolled down from the altar. Ah! Ah! Before he could last 10 seconds, his corpse turned into a pile of dust. Die! Another refiner fell. He died for no apparent reason. He didn't even know how he died. Everyone's face once again tensed up. Many people began to tremble and no longer dared to advance. This bronze sword was too savage. He was definitely a ferocious soldier. Any higher and you will die. Sigh. Old man let out a soft sigh and muttered, "Looks like there aren't any outstanding refiners this year." 3 people went on stage. 2 died and 1 was injured. No one dared to try. The only result of trying was death. Old man took a few steps forward and said, "Cultivation is not easy, but the path of artifact forging is even more difficult. I think we should end it here today and go back to cultivate more." Half the time passed. The refiners at the scene were all frightened out of their wits. It would be a waste of time to wait any longer. "All right then. This is too difficult. It's really difficult. My cultivation is still not enough. What exactly is this godly weapon?" Seeing the old man speak, they also followed suit and walked down the stairs, not daring to try again. At this moment, Long Fei took a few steps forward and said, "I want to give a try." Old man turned his head to look at Long Fei, at the symbol on Long Fei's clothes. The symbol of the Xianwu Pavilion. He was also the representative of the fairy city, and because of the factory sex recommendation, the Xianwu Pavilion was qualified to participate in this evaluation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the qualifications to be here. What ability does Xianwu Pavilion have? That's right. I've never heard of forging such a powerful weapon. The Xianwu Pavilion is here to join in on the fun. Going up is suicide. Brat, you should calm down a little. With your ability, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. If we can't do it, how can a mere Xianwu Pavilion like you do it? Why don't you take a piss? What the hell is that? Xianwu Pavilion was looked down by others. Every single refiner here had a greater influence than the Xianwu Pavilion, and they were naturally displeased to see that Long Fei wanted to go up and appraise them. Long Fei smiled and said, "Xianwu Pavilion is indeed not much. In the eyes of many master refiners, it is nothing, but I will quickly give it a try. What about you two? Go ahead. Go if you have the guts. If you want every one of them, then shut up. If you don't dare to go, then stop being cocky in front of Lousy. Tell Lousy to take a piss. Why don't you guys take a piss and take care of yourselves? You don't even dare to try. What use can you possibly have? Not a shred of face." Moreover, while Long Fei was speaking, he had already walked up the altar and looked at the bronze sword floating in the air. A few of the elders were extremely furious by what Long Fei had said. "Kid, who do you think you are? Do you think you have the right to mock us? Younger generation member, you are truly arrogant. I shall see how you appraise it." Just when they were about to mock Long Fei's right arm moved Wang. The power that came from practicing the bladeless, heavy sword surged. The muscles of his entire arm tensed up, nearly bursting out of his sleeves. Pavilion Master Lei Gang said loudly, "Brother, be careful of your hands exploding." With a flick of his right hand, he directly grabbed it. However, at the same time, Long Fei's state of mind instantly became tranquil. There was not the slightest bit of a true spirit movement, nor was there the slightest bit of idea refining. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The bronze sword suddenly let out a sword hum. The restrained sword gleams suddenly exploded out as if they were out of control. Long Fei did not move. At this moment, in his world, what he held in his hand was not a sword, but a dragon. Chapter 2945, Xinchalong's Sword. Chapter 2945, Xinchalong's Sword. It was not a sword, but a dragon. The ancient dragon was incomparably malevolent, its entire body suffused with a bronze color. Both dragon eyes stared at Long Fei. Strangely, Long Fei was not afraid. His heart did not have any fear at all. Gulong stared at Long Fei and said, Are you not afraid of me? Long Fei said indifferently. Don't be afraid. Moreover, he did not say it, because he still felt a sense of familiarity. It was as if they had met each other before. Gulong looked at the youth in front of him, his eyes slightly narrowing. He wanted to see through Long Fei, but he couldn't see through anything, and only muttered softly, Strange, I'm a Xinchalong sword that guards the underworld. No one can control me, unless it's... Suddenly, the pupils of the two giant glass-like eyeballs rapidly contracted as the tyrannical, domineering dragon power crushed them. Boom! It poured down onto the top of Long Fei's head. However, it didn't have the slightest effect. Very strange. Gulong's face lit up with excitement. You are. Master. A Xinchalong sword could also be said to be a seal dragon sword. There were a total of 9 of them, guarding the various realms of the primordial era. At first, when the ancient world was first established, the first world that was born was the universal realm. However, when the foreign realm's destructive powerhouse poured in, the universal realm could not withstand the pressure and was about to collapse. At that time, a single person carrying 9 swords entered the grand mist space. Suppressing the outer space powerhouse, Seal was within the primordial special domain. This bronze sword was one. However, time flew by. It was unknown how many years had passed. He thought that the entire world would forget about him, but once again, he felt that incomparable closeness. Long Fei was a little confused. Master, black and white. What exactly is going on? Long Fei's first thought was black and white. According to the black and white words, he was the former number 1 of the ancient world in his past life, and was also the former number 1 powerhouse. It was just that he did not know what happened afterwards. The black and white eyes slightly opened as they let out a long sigh. Xinchalong's sword. Long Fei was secretly shocked. Fuck, so it really was you? What does this sword have to do with you? Why is he a dragon? Black and white said, at that time, when the universal realm was just being nurtured with chaotic laws and chaotic space and time flow, there were always outer space powerhouses, strange beasts, and demons invading, affecting the reproduction of the ancient world. At that time, I was also very angry, and turned the 9 dragons of the dragon race into Xinchalong's sword, and used the ancient power to guard the 9 dragon sword in the primordial 9 regions, blocking the chaotic space entrance, as well as causing all the demons that entered the universal realm to be placed within the special domain of the universal realm. Originally, at this point, black and white suddenly choked up. This surprised Long Fei. The black and white gave him the impression of being arrogant and unbridled, of being able to kill gods and Buddhas, never regretting or giving any leeway out. But now he was choking, and it was surprising. Sigh. Monochrome let out a long sigh. I was suppressing an alien fiend, but I forgot about the 9 of them. If you hadn't encountered them, I probably wouldn't have even thought of them. They've suffered, black and white said softly. Long Fei was shocked. His mind spun as he flew. Then he said to Gulong, you guys have suffered greatly. At that time where you were beaten in a 9 Xinchalong sword S to suppress the 9 realms of Hongmeng and the demons of another realm, to let you stay in this dragon sword for your entire life and for all eternity, guarding the evil waters of the deep mountains. It's been hard on you all. As soon as he finished, looking at the teenager in front of him, he could not believe it, but he had no choice but to believe it, because this was his master. The Xinchalong sword growled, Master, you finally came. What are you saying? I didn't suffer at all but you. In his heart, his master was a supreme existence. Even if they refined their bodies into 9 dragon sword S and guarded the 9 realms, they would not regret it. After countless years of waiting and waiting, to be able to see his master again was enough for him to wait another 10,000 years. Is that kid dead? She is motionless. Didn't she just die like that? Even if he doesn't die, he won't be too far away from death. How much time is that? No reaction at all. Hey boy, how are you? Several master refiners began to discuss among themselves. The God's Design addict was a little excited and said, Don't talk, quiet down. He looked at Long Fei, his eyes shining. Long Fei's performance had shocked him beyond belief. What was this sword? In fact, The God's Design Attic had a record, but it had not been confirmed yet. This was a topic for the God's Design Attic, and was also what the God's Design Attic Lord meant by master. He wanted to confirm whether this ancient bronze sword was the same as the records or not. An ancient sword forged by a divine dragon? Long Fei simply could not hear the sound of the outside world. He was currently in the world of Xinchalong's sword, and he was very surprised. Master, why did you become like this? Could it be that the ancient Ashura's abyss hasn't been repaired? Those alien demons have entered the ancient world? I don't understand. There's so many big worlds outside of ancient world that can enter. Why did you choose to enter one of them? At that time, the ancient world was just born and didn't hide anything. Why did it become like this? Could it be that the ancient world you mentioned is really hiding some kind of divine treasure? All his memories stopped at several trillion years ago. At that time, it could be said to be a state of chaos. Hearing his words, Long Fei's heart secretly shivered. Ashura's abyss? Black and white. What kind of place is that? Monochrome did not speak. What did you experience? You said that the ancient world has some sort of divine treasure. What exactly is it? Long Fei asked curiously, but the black and white did not answer him, and unavoidably said unhappily, so boring. Weren't you suppressed by the repression of boundary stones? Could it be that there's another story behind your death? Rup, black and white, you'll die if you say something. It was so urgent. Regarding the matters of that era, Long Fei was only curious about it. That's all. Black and white, black and white. He was him. He was completely different from the black and white. After a long time, Black and White then said, "You will know about this in the future." "Damn you!" Long Fei disdained, turned and looked at the Xinchalong's sword, and said, "What do we do now? Are you coming with me, or are you staying here?" The Xinchalong's sword immediately became excited, and said, "Master, can I go with you?" Long Fei said, "It's up to you. If you want to stay here, I won't force you. If you are willing, you can also come with me." The Xinchalong's sword immediately said, "I will go with you." Chapter 2946, Demon Person Attacks. Chapter 2946, Demon Person Attacks, No Way. Just as the Xinchalong's sword agreed, Black and White let out a heavy sound to stop her, the Primordial 9 territory. The first realm had a set of Xinchalong's sword, and it was used to suppress demons from another region. Once the Xinchalong sword leaves, the demons from this region will definitely break out of their imprisonment. Long Fei immediately interrupted, "Don't make these useless things for me. None of my business. You said it yourself, I will walk my own path. Wanting to ascend to the heavens or walk into hell is my business, so I have made the decision." Actually, it was only because Long Fei heard that the guardian beast was a foreign devil that he let the Xinchalong's sword follow him. Think about it. An alien fiend. This was definitely a super huge boss. How can we kill them if we don't release them? How could it explode? How do I level up? Furthermore, the universal realm was too calm under the pressure of the gods' tribe. She could not jump up and down at all. How could she do that if she did not find something for the gods' tribe to do? Long Fei wanted the universal realm to become chaotic, because that was the only way to benefit him. The more chaotic and powerful the situation, the more heroes would emerge from it. If he wanted to defeat the gods' tribe, then he would have to destroy everything in front of him, and not be reborn in the ashes and die in the ashes. In the Primordial 9 territory, the 9 Xinchalong sword had all left their guarding grounds and caused this universal realm to become chaotic. Black and White said solemnly, "I know what you're thinking. I had the same thoughts as you, but in the end it was still." Long Fei interrupted once again, "You are you, and me. I am different from you, and my life is also different from yours. My character is better than yours." No matter how Black and White tried to stop him, Long Fei would not stop them. Black and White let out a long sigh. "However, I'll go first with the obscenities. When the time comes, if you need my help, I will absolutely not help, and will tell you. This is your own path." Long Fei said, "If you want help, you did not help. My own path. I'll walk it myself." Immediately, Long Fei said to the Xinchalong sword. Okay, I will take you away. And then, Long Fei grabbed the sword hilt and pulled. Buzz. The four gods' design attic guests were instantly sent flying. Their minds were damaged, and their faces turned pale. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. Long Fei woke up from the world of the Xinchalong sword and said to Old Man while looking at him, "This sword is called the Xinchalong sword. It was created by suppressing the demons in the western regions during the ancient times. As for his material, divine dragon body." Old Man tensed up. The surrounding people began to laugh. Ha ha, ha ha. I thought you were amazing, but I didn't expect you to be so mediocre. Nonsense. Just bullsh asterisk T. Xinchalong sword? I'm even guarding the heavenly sword. Ancient time? Could the swords of ancient times still be left here, deep in the mountains, undiscovered? You must have a screw loose. Forged from the body of a divine dragon. What kind of divine dragon is it? Who could turn him into a sword? Didn't you want to enter the god's design attic and go crazy? Nonsense. Everyone started to mock him. What Long Fei had said was impossible for artifact forging. Forging a sword out of a divine dragon? A divine dragon scale could create a divine sword that was 10 times bigger than this bronze sword. Yet, a divine dragon body could create such a rusted bronze sword? This wasn't the way to brag. No one would believe it. However, Old Man laughed. Ha, ha ha. Good, good. All right. You're right. As soon as he finished speaking, those people who had mocked Long Fei earlier were all dumbstruck, standing there straight as wood, not moving an inch. Under their masks, it was as though their faces had been ruthlessly slapped. Elder, that's impossible, right? How can an ancient sword be here? This place is barren and filled with evil, filled with thorns and brambles. It's not like this is some kind of precious land. How could it be planted here? Moreover, to forge such a small sword out of the divine dragon's physique, this is also impossible. Everyone was puzzled. The old man did not explain and said, "The ancient powerhouse is much stronger than we imagined. We cannot think about the ancient powerhouse with our current understanding. Xianwu Pavilion, you have passed the examination." Old Man walked in front of Long Fei and retrieved an ancient-looking order badge from his bosom. The order badge was engraved with 2 words, Heavenly Mystery, and he handed it over to Long Fei. The surrounding people stared blankly, drooling as they stared at the command token. In the dark, Xianwu Pavilion was also shocked. He did not expect this to happen. Never would he have thought that Long Fei actually succeeded. He had really succeeded. He was extremely excited. He knew clearly in his heart that obtaining the God's Design Attic's command medallion was equivalent to stepping into the heavens for any artificer. Long Fei was representing him, which meant that he would bring the God's Design token into the God's Design Attic, and he would soar to the sky with a single step. This feeling was as if he had suddenly ascended into the sky. Long Fei looked at the God's Design token, received it with both hands, and said with a heavy voice, "Thank you." To him, this order badge had no special meaning. It was just a simple order badge. As for entering the God's Design Attic, he did not want to forge artifacts for the rest of his life. His goal was also not to refine the holy artifact. However, he wanted to go to God's Design Attic, so he asked, "Senior, I don't know how to go there yet. Do you have a map or something?" He didn't dare to say the heart of the heavens out loud. The Sky Sword, primordial fur sword, was not something he could casually say. Old Man laughed faintly. "Ha! The map is inside the order badge. Go back and carefully study it and explain everything that needs to be done. Then come to God's Design Attic." Long Fei looked at the God's Design token in his hand. "It's in the order badge." He couldn't help but feel nervous. He knew that this order badge was going to be given to the immortal Marshal Grandcourt. I wonder if he is willing to give it to me for a few days. Even if he was unwilling, Long Fei would not do anything. This was something that he had promised Xianwu Pavilion. Just as Long Fei was thinking about this. TSK, TSK. Ahaha. Haha. The sound of the devil weeping suddenly came from all directions. Countless powerful auras came crashing down on the valley one by one. The whole valley was suddenly invaded by the devil auras. Old Man frowned. Not good. Magic tribe. Those weapons craftsman masters all became even more panicked and began to tremble in fear. Buzz. Boom. Once the purple-colored red flames heavily fell down, it seemed like a ball of bloody mist had exploded. It landed beside Long Fei and laughed sinisterly, staring at him, hand over the Zinchalong sword. Red-haired demon dweller. The aura on his body swirled, and his true soul had a powerful corrosive force. It was incomparably powerful, an unshakable power. Chapter 2947, One Sword, Slash. Chapter 2947, One Sword, Slash. The sudden attack caught everyone off guard. Moreover, this divine weapon appraisal assembly was a very mysterious event, and very few people knew about it. Therefore, they didn't defend against the demon dwellers. Even Old Man didn't have time to react when it appeared in an instant. Long Fei frowned and tightened his grip on the Zinchalong sword. This was his sword. How could he give it to someone else? Old Man said in a low voice, Red Devil Lord, this is God's Design Addict's assessment and selection. Aren't you looking down on my God's Design Addict by doing this? God's Design Addict? What is it? The red-haired demon dweller's eyes turned sinister as he stared at Old Man. Under his robes, his hands started moving. Long Fei immediately cried out, Senior, be careful. The red-haired demon dweller's pupils shrank, and in a flash, he turned into a red vortex of blood mist. Soon after, a series of giant palms came out from the vortex. Bam! Bam! Bang, bang, bang! Blood splattered everywhere. The blood mist became even more scarlet, and the vortex suddenly stopped. There were over 100 bloody palm prints on Old Man's body, and all of the bones in his body were messed up. His face was pale. Crack! Crack! Crackling sounds came from within his body as he collapsed to the ground. Dead. Too fast. Old Man's cultivation was at least above the Emperor realm, but if he was killed instantly, the Red Devil Lord would not be able to describe it. Red Devil Lord directly smashed Old Man's head apart with a single kick and icily asked, God's Design Addict? What bullshit is this? It was also at this time, for disciples of the God's Design Addict also instantly rushed over. Master! Master! The four of them moved at the same time and summoned their weapons, booming towards Red Devil Lord at the same time. The cultivation levels of the four were also Royal Realm S. If they worked together, Emperor Strongman would probably have to dodge, but he did not even look at them. Schwa! Schwa! For consecutive sounds rang out as four Scarlet Soul locking hook shot out from the darkness and landed squarely on the necks of the four people. Crack! Crack! For heads flew into the air, blood spurting from their mouths. Those weapons craftsman masters were so frightened that their bodies were trembling and their lips were trembling. A few of them were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Red Devil Lord walked in front of Long Fei and immediately lifted Long Fei's mask and flew away. Looking at Long Fei's young appearance, he was slightly shocked. I thought it was an old man, but I didn't expect it to be a youth. That's right. To be able to pass the God's Design Addict's examination and pull out the Zinchalong sword, you must have some outstanding points. Red Devil Lord laughed. Brat, I give you a choice. Hand over the Zinchalong sword and take me as your master, and I can spare your life. Before he could finish his words, the master refiners eagerly said, Hurry up and give him the sword. Brat, you aren't Xian Wu Pavilion Lord at all. Who are you? It's not important who it is now, so hurry up and give him the sword. Did you hear that? Give him the sword. All of them were extremely afraid of death. Long Fei looked at Red Devil Lord and said indifferently, And if I don't give it to you? Not giving. The Red Devil Lord laughed sinisterly. His 5 fingers slightly spread out as he abruptly clenched them. Bam! The head of Master Refiner suddenly exploded. Unfathomable. This power was so strong that he couldn't understand it all. Red Devil Lord said, Brat, do you think you have a choice? Either die or accept my request. Long Fei was completely unable to release his idea. How many people were there in this valley? I don't know, Long Fei said, If you want me to hand over the Zinchalong sword, then I can, but this sword is used to guard the underground demons. What do you want him to do? Red Devil Lord said. Seems like you know quite a lot. Ah, correct, it is used to guard the underground demons. As for what do we need it for? That's not something you can know. Hand it over. Then, kneel down and kowtow to acknowledge me as your teacher, and your little life will be saved. The surrounding master refiners trembled in fear as they asked, Honored Devil Lord, what about us? We are innocent. We didn't do anything. Red Devil Lord was a little impatient. He said in a deep voice, so noisy. Swish, swish, swish. Swish, swish, swish. A dozen hooks shot out in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Just like a human head harvesting machine, all the heads of the equipment forgers flew out and blood sprayed out from their bodies. They were all Powerhouse S above Royal Realm. He had no power to retaliate at all. Long Fei's expression turned sinister, but soon after, the corners of his mouth lifted as he laughed. I hate people who threaten me the most. And furthermore, unless I don't want what's in my hands, it can't be in someone else's hands. Red Devil Lord smiled faintly and said, Seems like you choose to die? What a pity! What a pity! I, the Red Devil, have not taken a fancy to a single disciple for over 10 years. But to think that right now, I would actually choose to die. Sigh. It seems like my Red Devil is destined to never have a disciple ever again. The Lord stared at Long Fei with his cold eyes. Soul Realm was too terrible, so he said die. As soon as he finished, the blood mist suddenly condensed and engulfed Long Fei. Long Fei moved and shouted, Mongoose! Buzz! Blood Cloud's black robe had exceptionally cold eyes, but his eyeballs had turned into kaleidoscopes. He formed a seal with his hands, so fast that it was impossible to see them clearly. At that moment, Buzz! A stream of blood shot out. In that moment, the aura on Red Devil Lord's body suddenly stopped, and the blood mist surrounding Long Fei also dispersed. Long Fei let out a long breath as he looked at the Universe Weasel and then at Red Devil Lord. At this moment, Red Devil Lord took out his sword and extended it towards his neck. Illusion techniques? Long Fei didn't know. However, the Weasel's power was too strong. In just a moment, Red Devil Lord was trapped in an illusion. Long Fei bellowed, Damn it, you want me to die? Who is dead now? The Weasel's illusion technique was too awesome. Moreover, with a 100% loyalty level, he would be able to unleash his full strength without holding back. However, one weakness was that the Weasel was not at its peak state. Long Fei could vaguely sense the aura from the Weasel's body. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Suddenly, a huge bloody cow rushed out of the darkness, completely out of control. At the same time, soul-locking hooks shot out one after another. Long Fei was shocked. Damn it. After all, he was only a character that had been summoned. He didn't think too much about it. The main target of his illusion technique was the Red Devil Lord, while the other demon dwellers in the forest were slightly stunned and didn't stay there for too long. As the giant blood-colored bull broke through the illusion, the demon dwellers quickly attacked the Weasel. Holy sh**T. Without caring about that, the idea moved and immediately summoned the Weasel back. It was also at this time that the Red Devil Lord was in a daze, looking at the sword on his neck. At this moment, his aura, strength, defense, everything about him was still an illusion. Opportunity. Long Fei moved his right hand. The heavy sword has no edge. One strike. Kill. Swish. His figure was like a sword. His sword images were like lightning. It was as if Long Fei's entire person had pierced through Red Devil Lord's body, and a thin line of blood appeared between Red Devil Lord's eyebrows. His eyes widened. Body. It slowly slid down and split in half. And at this moment, the system sounded out. Ding! Chapter 2948, Divine Techniques. Chapter 2948, Divine Techniques. It was the first time that the heavy sword had been unsheathed. The first time was Slay. In that moment, Long Fei felt as if he had turned into a stream of sword intent that directly penetrated Red Devil Lord's body. It was too shocking. He had always thought that the elder swordsman letting him practice the sword was just to increase his strength and perception. However, he had never thought that other than these, there was also the sword intent. Of course, this was also because Red Devil Lord was confused by the weasel's illusion techniques, and his attributes were all 0. Otherwise, no matter how strong Long Face or intent was, he would not be able to harm Red Devil Lord. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Red Devil Lord for obtaining 500 million experience, 1,000 true chi points, and 1 universal value. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the Dragon Subduing Hook. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Powerful Diamond Ultra Magic Pill. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the Demon Soul Umbrella. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, level 3 Soul Handle. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 4th level of the Astral Soul Realm. 2 levels consecutively increased. There was only one word to describe the feeling. Awesome. Damn, what level is this guy at? Yet another 500 million experience points. Isn't this a little too terrifying? Long Fei was secretly pleased. He never thought that a boss would have so much experience points. I always thought that it was difficult to level up Universal Realm, but it seems that leveling up isn't too difficult as long as I can kill all the super strong powerhouse. Long Fei became excited. However, after instantly killing the Red Devil Lord, Long Fei did not dare to stay any longer and rushed into the depths of the valley. Everyone from God's Design Attic had died. All the weapons crafting masters who had come to take the test had also died. What was the situation of the immortal Martial Grand Court? Long Fei didn't know. However, he couldn't care so much now. After killing the Red Devil Lord, how could the demon dwellers let him go? Sir High Lord, third brother, Red Devil. In the forest, seeing the Red Devil's body split into 2, those demon dwellers couldn't react for a moment. Furthermore, the teenager was only at Soul Realm's level of cultivation. How was this possible? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Boom! Boom! The 2 demonic phantoms descended and stood beside Red Devil Lord. Looking at their bodies that were split into 2, the devil flames on the 2 of them were like a volcano that erupted, roaring towards the sky. Find him. I want to cut him into 10,000 pieces. Boom! Rumble! The sound wave was like a wave. The demonic flame churned and quickly spread out. One of the demon dwellers' eyes flashed with a blood-red light. He turned around and stared a certain direction. Over there! In that instant, dozens of demonic shadows shot out from the forest. He moved as fast as lightning. The strangle emitted a cold light, appearing especially sinister under the cold moon. Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Long Fei used all of his strength and increased his speed to its limit. Looking at the devil flames surrounding his body, his heart sank. Damn! The devil's flames entangled them, which meant that they had already discovered their position. However, Long Fei was not in a hurry. Looking at the mountain body not far away, he laughed deeply and thought to himself, "Capture this, Daddy, in the next life." There it is. Chase! Quick, quick, quick! Several demon dwellers appeared behind Long Fei, their throats locking onto him. Shwa! It pierced through the night sky and headed straight for Long Fei's throat. Long Fei moved. Annie Road. Whoa! When Annie Road landed, the golden rod in his hand moved slightly. 1,000,000 volts of electric shock. Crack! Bam! A bolt of lightning struck the hook. The electric current quickly pierced through, and the demon dweller's body twitched a few times before falling to the ground. Another notification rang out in Long Fei's mind. Seeing another demon dweller fall, the demon was enraged. Useless trash. Boom! MT Tai was about to burst apart as it took a step forward. With a leap, he instantly landed behind Long Fei. Both his palms moved and shouted out loudly, "Brat, go and die!" The earth shook like thunder. All of the devil flames in the forest instantly gathered onto his 2 hands. This palm, the power was simply too great. As long as it hit, Even if Long Fei had 0 HP, he wouldn't be able to stop it. Quick, quick, quick! Long Fei felt the incomparably strong power behind his back, and his heart became even calmer. No, too late. The power of Grand Mist. Open for me. Buzz. 100 universal value for 1 point of universal soul, and the universal soul transformed into energy, suddenly exploding on Long Fei's body, as though it was a Hong Zhong condensed from energy, protecting Long Fei's entire body. There was no time. His speed wasn't fast enough at all. He could only use the universal soul to block this palm. Bam! The palm struck down, and a powerful shockwave exploded out. All the trees in the valley shook, and the leaves flew all over the sky like snow. The defensive power that was converted from universal soul shattered. Long Fei's entire body sank as he scolded angrily, F***CK. Not to mention the fact that he had exhausted all of his universal soul. Even his own body was sunken, and his internal organs seemed to have flipped over. Long Fei forced himself to hold back. The devil's eyes were filled with shock. He didn't die. The anger in his heart grew even higher. His palms moved again. Let's see how many moves you can block. Another palm attack came. This time, it was even more ferocious. At this time, Long Fei was no longer able to use the universal soul, and even if he could, he would only be able to use half of his strength. At this moment, Long Fei suddenly stood still, his mouth raised in a cold smile. If you want this daddy's life, there's still a long way to go. You're still pretending when life and death are at stake? The demon's eyes looked as if they were about to spew fire. The devil flames on his body descended together. Like an angry lion, he stared at Long Fei and smashed his palms together. Die. Long Fei laughed. Too weak. The idea moved. Snapshot step. Open. His body suddenly changed, and he instantly dove into the mountain. Long Fei then quickly teleported out of the mountain. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A massive explosion shook the skies, nearly causing half of the valley to collapse, but it did not hit Long Fei, nor did it kill him. At this moment, the demon was completely dumbfounded. Looking at Long Fei, who had disappeared into thin air, he was unable to react in time. Boom, boom. With just a thought, it had spread out to a distance of 100 kilometers. There was no sign of Long Fei in this range. Long Fei. He disappeared into thin air. F***CK. Damn it, it was close to killing me. Luckily, I have Caine's snapshot step, otherwise my life would have ended here. Long Fei was wandering inside the mountain. It was very relaxed, very cozy. However, Long Fei never lost out. Chapter 2949, Gates of Hell. Chapter 2949, Gates of Hell. Long Fei almost died. He was extremely unhappy. You want my life? You want to steal my things? MMP. Long Fei said fiercely. According to the system's description of the snapshot step, he could traverse the mountain for 5 hours. As long as he did not go out, no one would be able to find him. Snapshot step was simply a heaven-defying escaping technique. Invincible state. Unless there was someone who could destroy the entire mountain range in one move, Long Fei would not die. Find it for me. Search carefully. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find him. As the demon said this, his senses continued to expand as he searched again and again. But he just could not find Long Fei's aura. He wouldn't be able to find it either. However, what he did not know was that Long Fei was inside the mountain in front of him. At this moment, Long Fei drooled, his eyes glowed, wishing that he could swallow the boss whole. It's too tempting. 500 million experience points is too tempting. Gudong. He was someone who would not be able to move even a single step when he saw boss, causing Long Fei's brain to fly into the air. If I use it again. It's a pity that the weasel is on cooldown. If I can use his illusion technique to attack again, the power of the heavy sword, edgeless, will be able to explode once more. No rush. No rush. People who do important things have to be patient. I have plenty of time. At this time, the demon dwellers were on full alert. In this state, Whether it was their strength or defense, they were all exceptionally sharp. If they did not succeed, Long Fei would probably die. He was like a cheetah hiding in the dark, quietly observing its prey while it waited for its fatal strike. Lord, High Lord, I've already searched every corner of the valley, and I didn't manage to find anything. Without waiting for the small fry to finish speaking, Purple Devil Lord immediately shouted, "Search him again. It's impossible for him to escape with his cultivation. He's definitely still in the valley." The small fry didn't dare to say more, and immediately said, "As you command." Another demon walked up and said, "Second brother, that brat is very strange. He must have an escaped treasure on him. I think we should leave. We have reached the mission given to us by the sect master. The Zinchalong sword must have left the seal." Purple Devil Lord said solemnly, "Big brother, third brother." The great demon said, "I also feel terrible about third bro's death, but don't worry, I will definitely take revenge." And you have heard what they said at the beginning. That brat is the representative of the Xianwu Pavilion. Once we go back to the sect and check, we will know what kind of place the Xianwu Pavilion is. Hearing that, Long Fei's heart tensed up. Seems like none of them can return, or else Xianwu Pavilion will be in danger. I wonder how Grand Court is doing. The killing intent in Long Fei's eyes became thicker, and he muttered to himself, "Could it be that their mission is to let the Zinchalong sword leave? It seems like there is something strange under the CLS. I wonder if my snapshot step can dig into the ground. I'll give it a try." Long Fei moved his body and immediately dove deeper into the ground. What surprised him was that there were no restrictions at all, allowing him to drill even deeper. Then, Long Fei took out the Zinchalong sword and said, "Dragon sword, bring me to your seal. I want to see what kind of demon there is." Zinchalong's sword said, "Understood." The Zinchalong sword moved to point the direction, and Long Fei immediately followed. He continued to dive deeper into the ground. After half an hour, the Zinchalong sword stopped and said, "Master, this is the place." This was a huge, spacious area. It was like an underground car's cave. Long Fei walked out from within the mountain, and the system also sounded out a notification sound. Ding! System notification. The duration of the snapshot step has ended. As long as Long Fei left the three bodies, the duration would end. Only when Long Fei looked at the cooling time of the snapshot step, he became excited. Cool down complete? Ha ha! I know. As long as I use the skill, it will be in the middle of a cooldown. It has already been half an hour, so the cooldown has naturally ended. Awesome. Long Fei was a little excited as he looked at the big door in front of him. To be more accurate, it was facing the ground. The door was upside down. It reached a height of 30,000 meters, extending all the way down into the depths of the earth. 4 words were carved on the heavy stone gate. These 4 characters were not ancient characters, nor were they talismans. They were just ordinary words. "Those who enter will die." Long Fei looked at the dragon, sword floating beside him. "Didn't you say that you can charge out after leaving the demons inside the seal?" The Zinchalong sword said, "That is indeed the case, but I have yet to leave the valley. I will only leave this seal valley after I leave it." And so much time has passed, it's hard to say if these suppressed fiends are still alive or not. It had been too long. In 1 trillion years of time, let alone a human, even a god would probably die of old age here. No matter what race they were, their lifespan was not limitless. It was the same for the alien fiends. Tens of millions of years of time, it was truly too long ago. Long Fei looked at the huge inverted door and asked, "Can you open the door?" The Zinchalong's sword trembled slightly and said, "Master, do you want to open it? What if the demon inside is still alive?" Then, the Zinchalong's sword didn't dare to guarantee. However, he had seen the monsters from the other realms rampaging about the universal realm. It could be said that half of the universal realm were destroyed by those demons, and their faces looked as if they were about to crack. They only had one goal: destroy. Long Fei looked at the door and said, "I want to go in and take a look." The Zinchalong's sword said, "Master, this is too dangerous. If an accident happens, Then I'm afraid. Long Fei looked at the door to hell, giving him the feeling that once he opened the door, blood would surge out from the inside, but he really wanted to open it. Long Fei said, I still want to go in. The Xinchalong sword said, All right, since Master wants to go in, I'll open it. I am the key to this door. There are also 8 other places in Universal Realm. The other 8 Xinchalong sword are also keys. While they were talking, the Xinchalong sword flew out and directly flew into the abyss. Half a minute later, he heard a loud kacha sound, ka. The door to hell slowly opened. After a long time, with a clang, both stone doors opened. At the same time, the entire mountain range started to shake, constantly shaking, and rocks began to fall down. The demon beast S within the mountain, no matter if they were gigantic super monster S or low-level demon beast S, all of them crawled on the ground and trembled, constantly releasing terrified low roars. 10,000 birds flew in fear, and the crowing of crows could be heard for hundreds of thousands of kilometers around, as though it was the end of the world. Chapter 2950, Opening of the Sarcophagus. Chapter 2950, Opening of the Sarcophagus. 10,000 beasts wailed, and all was in a downturn. It felt like the end of the world. In the valley, those disciples of Magic Sect were also nervous as fear rose in their hearts. Big brother, there's movement underground. Could it be? Purple Devil Lord's eyes darkened. Looking at the ground, he naturally thought of the ancient giant demons under the seal. The great demon's eyes darkened and said faintly, If it's true, then that means the Xinchalong sword have already left this seal valley. Did that kid really escape? That's impossible, unless he cultivates a spatial movement cultivation technique or a divine treasure. But it is impossible for a mere Xian Wu pavilion to possess such a heaven-defying treasure. Purple Devil Lord frowned. He didn't think much about it. Since he had already found Xian Wu pavilion, he would get his revenge sooner or later. Big brother, what do we do now? The demon shook his head. I don't know. Our mission is only to bring the Xinchalong sword away. Now that the dragon sword has left, our mission is complete. However, the great demon thought for a moment and swept his gaze across the valley, saying, Get people to retreat from the valley and keep a safe distance. We'll see if the ancient giant demon really has breaking through the seal. Immediately, disciples of Magic Sect quickly retreated. He concealed himself deep underground. When the gates of hell opened, no monstrous blood gushed out or demons gushed out. Everything returned to normal at that instant. The tremors disappeared. The demon beast on the ground had also recovered, and the startled flock of birds slowly descended. It was as if nothing had happened. The Xinchalong sword flew back to Long Fei's side and said, The stone door did not sense any special aura, so those demons should have all died of old age. After all, everything has its lifespan limit. Unlike me, it has become a weapon that guards the seal. There was a hint of loneliness in his voice. He was a holy dragon, being refined into a Xinchalong sword. He could last for tens of billions of years. In these long years, he missed the time when he had such a huge body. Of course, he didn't regret it. Long Fei asked, Is there a way to help you recover? The Xinchalong sword was shocked for a moment and said, Yes, there is, but it is too difficult, and it is good that we have become Xinchalong sword now. At least we have returned to Master's side. Long Fei did not speak. He silently said to himself, Let's find a chance to restore them in the future. As he stepped through the gates of hell, a gust of cold wind assaulted him. It sent chills down one's spine. Huff! Long Fei heaved a heavy sigh and stepped into the stone door. Inside the stone door, it was like a huge cave, with strange diagrams everywhere on the sides of the cave. None of them understood. The Xinchalong sword also could not understand, and muttered, What exactly are these diagrams? Looked carefully at all the stars, dense clouds, unknown patterns, and domains. Each diagram slowly combined together, and Long Fei muttered, This seems to be a nebula diagram. It was like the entire universe. Each star represents a great world that kind of strange and dense cloud, should be the unknown domain. Are those demons astronomers? Long Fei had doubts in his heart. The reason he guessed it was because of the nebula diagram was from the ancient times of science fiction movies. In this world, it could be said that even if he was the Emperor Xian, he wouldn't understand anyone. The Zinchalong sword said, "Master, take a look at this drawing. What is this thread?" Long Fei shook his head. "I don't know." Suddenly, the Zinchalong sword saw a slightly familiar place and said, "Master, this seems to be the ancient world." The dragon sword also came from the ancient world. He had some understanding of the ancient world. Although he couldn't confirm it, he felt that the diagram was very similar. Not only that, the straight line that had appeared from the beginning to this world had suddenly disappeared without being traversed. Long Fei was also slightly shocked. Ancient world. The Zinchalong sword said, "Very similar, I dare not confirm." Long Fei stopped to carefully look at the pattern, and after pondering for a moment, he muttered to himself, "If this is really the ancient world, then the line that passed through the entire universe to this point, is it because they were trapped by the seal? Black and white, come out. You stopped their destruction, didn't you? But why do you say you failed again? Didn't you succeed?" Long Fei asked. Black and white did not respond. Long Fei disdained, "Damn, you're not giving me any face at all." Something that Black and White did not want to talk about. Even if Long Fei were to kneel down, he would still not be able to ask. He continued to walk forward. The pattern was not that clear. It was even very blurry. Many of them were in the unknown domain. However, the last image was very clear. It depicted the shape of a huge sun. The whole picture is a sun. There was nothing around him. There were no stars, no clouds, just a huge sun. In the center of the sun was an ancient word, life. Destiny. It was a very strange word. Was this sun the largest world in the universe? Life realm? Never heard of it. Or could it be that these demons had spent billions of years scribbling life all over the place, and the word life in the sun was written all over the place? Long Fei couldn't understand. Towards this kind of matter, Long Fei would normally not bother thinking about it. After walking through the last diagram, Long Fei also arrived at the deepest part. It was also the most spacious place. It was like a grand hall with a seat at the very top. There was nothing else, no demons. The Zinchalong's sword let out a long breath and said, "Looks like they really all died of old age, turning into ashes." Long Fei swept his gaze across the entire arena, and the idea moved. It couldn't feel the existence of anything and relaxed a little as it muttered, "It should be so. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have a skeleton left behind." This was the only explanation. Sigh. Nothing. It's a pity. Long Fei muttered in his heart. He was still thinking that there were treasures left behind by the primordial demons in the gates of hell, but they didn't even have skins. Just as Long Fei was relaxing his guard, suddenly, a strange sound rang out. It did not come from this cave, but from Long Fei's space ring. A space ring directly flew out from Long Fei's body. Whoosh! The ring then fell down and exploded. Long Fei's eyes flashed. That coffin. The coffin held by the Azure Dragon Ancestral Master directly shattered the god's tribe's space ring with its support. In that instant, he landed in the high chair. Kacha! Voila, voila, voila! The mysterious coffin slowly opened by itself. Chapter 29:51 18 Ancient Giant Demons. Chapter 29:51 18 Ancient Giant Demons, Heaven, Earth. The huge sarcophagus had actually opened by itself. Long Fei's scalp tingled when he saw it. It was as if he had met with some sort of miracle. Furthermore, from the start, he knew that the sarcophagus was extremely dangerous, so he did not dare open it. It was a pity that now he opened it himself. Walala, walala. The screeching sound of heavy stone slabs rubbing against each other could be heard. The Zinchalong's sword asked curiously, "Master, what is that?" Long Fei did not speak, because he did not know either. At a time like this, it was best not to speak. Long Fei stared at the sarcophagus and thought, "What exactly do you want to do?" Buzz! The sarcophagus stopped midway. And then, a stream of cold air emerged from the sarcophagus, as if a person had just exhaled. It was a place like this where one could easily lose his or her life. Long Fei's palms were drenched in cold sweat as he muttered, "Could it really be that a person is lying inside billions of years of zombies?" This was because this coffin had been obtained from the body of the Azure Dragon, Sacred Ancestral. The Azure Dragon, Sacred Ancestral, was a dragon that had existed for a very long time in the ancient world. Long Fei became cautious and replied faintly, "Be careful." The Zinchalong sword immediately took a defensive stance. He exhaled a breath of white air. Suddenly, a hand rested on the side of the coffin. Long Fei's pupils contracted slightly, and he exclaimed in a deep voice, "The F***CK, he wants to swindle a corpse?" One hand. His hand was just like a normal person's. It had flesh and blood on it, yet it did not decay at all. It was in a very strange state. A hand rested on the edge of the coffin. White air kept emitting out as if it hadn't been breathed for tens of thousands of years. Phew, phew, phew. The sound of breathing was exceptionally clear in the spacious and empty hall. Half a minute passed. This time was an extremely long process for Long Fei. The Zinchalong sword could not sit still and said, "Master, I'll go take a look." Without waiting for Long Fei to stop them, the Zinchalong sword flew over. The Zinchalong sword moved and instantly landed on the coffin. Looking at the scene inside the coffin, he subconsciously looked towards Long Fei, and then he looked at the scene inside the coffin again. He couldn't say a word. He looked at Long Fei, then at the inside of the coffin. The Zinchalong sword was completely stupefied. As he was speaking, suddenly, the hand that was placed beside the coffin suddenly turned into a palm, and his 5 fingers made a grasping motion in the air. His palm faced towards Long Fei. In that moment, the Zinchalong sword was shocked and instantly warned, "Master, be careful." Before he could return to Long Fei's side, he was sent flying by an extremely strong force. The Zinchalong sword that was floating in mid-air directly fell to the ground, as though it had fallen unconscious. It was also at this time that Long Fei felt a wave of power that he had never felt before pouncing towards him. It was incomparably huge. His blood essence, his organs, and even his soul seemed to be on the verge of being sucked away. He couldn't bear it. Long Fei's body sank. With a twitch of his right hand, he took out the heavy sword and heavily stabbed it into the ground. With the movement of the idea, the universal soul instantly transformed into energy. Buzz! His true soul instantly burst forth as well. However, even so, Long Fei was still unable to resist, and his body started to float like a rag. F***CK me. What's going on? Long Fei's heart tightened. Thinking of the Zinchalong sword's stupefied expression, he could not help but ask in his heart, could it be that the ground is really a human? Without waiting for Long Fei's reply, the hand on the coffin tightened slightly. Long Fei's body was about to fly up. However, at this moment, behind Long Fei, a loud explosion could be heard from within the huge fog pattern. Roar! Next, a powerful force struck him like lightning. Long Fei tensed up and turned to take a look. In that moment, he almost peed his pants. Behind him, there were a total of 18 of them that stood there. There were bodies that were like humans, and also bodies that were like monsters. They were all sorts of strange, but one point that didn't belong to Universal Realm at all was their aura. Their eyes were filled with a sense of superiority, as if they were gods. Actually, in their world, they were gods. Other than that, there was another thing they had in common, which was that they were scrawny. The heck? Long Fei's scalp went numb. Looking at the 18 ancient giant demons, he was completely speechless. Millions of years. What kind of concept was this? These people were too abnormal. Roar, roar, roar. Waves of whooshing sounds rang out, as if they were speaking in their own language. Next, the 18 giant demon figures suddenly changed into a ball of black fog and crazily charged toward the sarcophagus. At this moment, the powerful suction force stopped. Long Fei stood still and looked at the sarcophagus. Bam! 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 A black mist rushed down. After the last wisp of black mist entered the coffin, the entire coffin closed up. Then the entire coffin floated into the air. Rumble, rumble, rumble. It was as if a great war was happening inside the coffin. Explosions were constantly heard. Long Fei looked at the coffins that were flying in his direction, as if he was watching a fight between gods. He had no idea what was going on inside. It was unknown whether the person in the coffin had been ganged up on, or if he had ganged up on those 18 huge demons. The only pity was that the experience points of these primordial giants, they were all old freaks who had lived for over 1 trillion years. The experience of these freaks would be worth a few $100 billion a year, directly leveling up to the realm of the Great Master. Sigh, what a pity, Long Fei sighed in his heart. After about half an hour, boom, the sarcophagus fell from the sky and directly crushed the stone chair into pieces. The entire cave trembled. Everything returned to calm. He won. He still lost. Long Fei took a step forward as he looked at the sarcophagus. At this time, the sarcophagus suddenly opened halfway. He spat a mouthful of black air. Then there was a burp. Air. Bam! The sarcophagus closed again. Holy sh**t. Eat them all. This guy. Eat up all 18 ancient giant demons? An ancient giant demon monster? I'm afraid it's not even 1 in 10,000. Long Fei muttered. However, it was also at this time. Long Fei's right arm suddenly burned with an excruciating pain. His body sank, and all the clothes on his right arm were instantly burnt clean, and lines of fiery lines appeared on his arm, as if he was tattooing. You can't feel any pain from this tattoo, and it's completely out of Long Fei's control. Chapter 2952, The Great Master Said. Chapter 2952, The Great Master said it happened out of nowhere. There was no sign. Long Fei had no way of reacting at all. He watched as the golden thread continuously swam around the back of his hand, like a golden metal wire, and passed by a scorching mark, like a rune. However, it was not a rune, so it was similar to the one on the dragon-shaped mark. Very special. Long Fei wanted to control it, but it was simply impossible. His idea was completely unable to stop it. Using his left hand to stop, it would be the same as turning a blind eye to the golden thread. There was absolutely no power that could control it. So Long Fei could only watch as it continued to wrap around it. Draw bit by bit. They twined around each other. In the end, with the dragon-shaped mark as the center, he wrapped it around once and stopped at his shoulder. Buzz! A faint buzzing sound could be heard. Long Fei looked at his own arm and muttered, "What the fuck is this drawing?" It looked like a mech. It looked very much like a gauntlet or gauntlet that appeared in a game. Long Fei used his strength to feel it, but he did not feel any discomfort, nor did he feel any energy. It was just that it was a little painful when the golden metal wire was being coiled. After observing for a few minutes, the lines on his arm slowly disappeared and were hidden within his arm. At this moment, ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Big Master Guard Arm. Me? What the hell? How did a Big Master Guard Arm appear? Long Fei's doubts had not yet ended when the system sounded out once more. Ding! System notification. Player Long Fei's right arm has evolved. Evolution. What did I do to evolve your daddy's arm? Ah, evolution? My arm evolved. What did it evolve into? Long Fei's mind was full of questions. He didn't do anything. After watching just one scene, the system beeped 2 times, leaving him completely stupefied. Instantly, Long Fei opened up the system to check. Item, Big Master Guard Arm attribute. Defense. Attack. All of the attributes were question marks. There was no explanation. Long Fei immediately acted as if he was scolding someone. Then he looked at the description. Description. This gauntlet is unrivaled in the world. It has been refined from 18 ancient giant demons. If used properly, it can release the power of 18 ancient giant demons. Description 2. One of the overlords set. Seeing the description in the system, Long Fei's 2 eyes remained unmoving, but the corners of his mouth slowly raised, and he started to laugh crazily again. Ha ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Awesome, my brother. An armed guard refined from the strength of 18 primordial giant demons, unparalleled in the world. And it's even a set. Is this for me to become the great master of primordial chaos? Ha! Long Fei was extremely excited. He had never thought of obtaining a sovereign-level holy artifact without doing anything. It could be said that this armed guard surpassed any existence of holy artifact. It was just that he could not take it out, otherwise Long Fei would really have to see how much its experience points was worth. The Great Master set. Haha. When Long Fei saw the Great Master, he couldn't help but think of a novel from his previous life. Awesome. But how do I release the power of the big Master Guard arm? Long Fei was suspicious. Looking at his own arm, he could not see anything. Even the lines were hidden, and the idea could not sense it. It was as if he had seen a ghost. If it wasn't for the fact that he could see that the big Master Guard arm still existed, Long Fei would have really thought that this was something to tease him. He couldn't help it. Long Fei clenched his fists tightly. Boom! Suddenly, there was an explosive sound, and Long Fei's arm became like a star swordsman transforming, with a few kacha sounds coming from his arm. A whole 18 thick pieces of metal seemed to emerge from his body and merge together. This feeling, it really did seem like he was transforming. Isn't this too overbearing? In just a few seconds, Long Fei's right arm became like a mechanical arm. It did not feel any weight, only an endless amount of power. It's about to be released. It's going to be released soon. If I can gather all of the sets, then lousy. The scene was too beautiful. Long Fei did not dare to think further. His right fist moved, and Long Fei smashed his fist against the stone wall. Bang! His strength was very heavy. But it was only a little stronger than before. But there were no special changes, and Long Fei also did not feel any changes from it. However, in the valley, rumble, rumble, rumble. The entire valley was cracking open. Countless of cracks were opening up. The disciples of Magic Sect who were hiding outside the valley were all so scared that their faces turned pale, not daring to even breathe. Are they coming out? Are they really coming out? Ancient giant demon? Our magic tribe's ancestor? Purple Devil Lord couldn't stay still any longer as he watched the valley crack. It was the same for the big devil on the other side. He was very excited. However, there was no other sound after the punch, nor did anything else emerge from the ground. The surroundings once again fell into silence. Nothing special? Did I not release my power? How in the world can I release that kind of peerless power? Long Fei grinned, looking at the incomparably domineering right arm. So handsome. Forget it. Let's talk after we get out. After such a long time, those disciples of Magic Sect should have gone far, right? Long Fei was elated that he had obtained the big Master Guard arm, so he did not take the matter of those disciples of Magic Tribe S wanting to kill him to heart. Dragon Sword, how are you? Long Fei walked over to the Xinshalong sword side. The Xinshalong sword suddenly floated up and looked at Long Fei, then looked at the sarcophagus. Master, what happened? Air. Long Fei was startled for a moment and asked, What did you see just now? The Xinshalong sword said, I didn't see anything. Long Fei did not understand. Didn't you just fly onto the coffin? Did you not see anything? There's a person lying in the coffin. Who could it be? The Xinshalong sword was confused. Did I fly onto the coffin? No, I don't have any memory. I felt a huge power rush towards me and then wave it around in my head. I don't remember anything else. Long Fei looked at the Xinshalong sword doubtfully. The Xinshalong sword said anxiously, Master, it's true, I won't lie to you. Long Fei muttered and said, Forget it. I will definitely find out who the person in the coffin is in the future anyway. Let's not talk about that for now. Long Fei walked in front of the coffin and took out a space ring, then said seriously, I don't care who you are, and I don't care what your motive is, but I thank you. Long Fei knew clearly in his heart. Without the sarcophagus from before, Long Fei would probably have been dismembered by the 18 ancient giant demons. Zhang Xian felt gratitude in his heart. The space ring moved, and the stone coffin flew inside. Long Fei said, "Let's go." Long Fei crawled out of the crevice. When the idea moved, it felt that there was no magic tribe in the valley that breathed a sigh of relief. Its entire body also climbed up. Standing in the middle of the valley and looking at the surrounding cracks, which were all over the collapsed ground, Long Fei let out a long sigh, just as he was about to sigh. Suddenly, a streak of purple devil fire rushed over. "Brat, give me your life." Chapter 2953, Betting on This Punch. Chapter 2953, Betting on This Punch. His speed was extremely fast. Furthermore, Purple Devil Lord's cultivation was extremely high. He could crush Long Fei as he wished by pressing him to the ground and rubbing against her as much as he wanted. Long Fei's heart tensed. He was not afraid, but instead seething in anger. "Damn it. Is there no end to it? Do you really think Lousy is afraid of you?" Boom! Immediately, his right hand clenched into a fist. Kacha, kacha, kacha. His right arm seemed to have transformed. However, Long Fei's reaction was still a little slow. This was because of the difference in level. He couldn't even clearly see the shadow of the Purple Devil Lord, and simply could not say how he would retaliate. However, at this moment, the Xinchalong's sword moved slightly. "Master, let me do it." The dragon's sword flashed. A dragon's roar resounded in the air as it roared. Dragon slash. The sword's shadow moved. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sky was like a firecracker. Not only were there buzzing and exploding sounds, Long Fei was at the center, and the surroundings were densely packed with dragon sword. A slash. Without a blind spot at 360 degrees, the heavy blow directly landed. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The entire space seemed to have been crushed as it heavily fell down like a round disc. You want to dodge? It doesn't exist. Fast? It doesn't exist. Hard force? It doesn't exist. Purple Devil Lord spat out a large mouthful of blood and staggered backwards, his chest dripping with blood. He was too quick to react, or else his entire body would have been hacked into two pieces. Long Fei's eyes moved. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. At this moment, Long Fei's silhouette moved, snapshot step. Shwa. These disciples of Magic Tribe were still in a daze, and had not reacted at all. By the time they could react, Long Fei was already right beside Purple Devil Lord. "Fuck you. You want my life? Now, your father wants your life." Long Fei leaped high into the air, the heavy sword in his left hand, and the sleigh. A piercing sound rang out. Purple Devil Lord's pupils became wide open as his gaze became dim and lifeless. In the end, his body slowly fell to the ground after being cut in half. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing him. Purple Devil Lord has gained 500 million experience, 1 million true spiritual value, 1 universal value. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 5th level of the Astral Soul Realm. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 6th level of the Astral Soul Realm. He had risen another 2 levels in succession. However, he now had a lot of experience left. Otherwise, he would have been able to level up once again. F*CK. Kill your father? Come on. Do you think I'm a damn cat if I don't show off? Long Fei roared fiercely, the anger in his heart venting, his gaze looking at the surroundings of the valley. Soul Realm killed Emperor Strongman again. This mythical existence. It was impossible. Those disciples of Magic Sect S were all terrified. It was simply unimaginable. If the first time was by chance, and he used a divine treasure to kill him, then what about this time? It was clearly a sword. Moreover, although Purple Devil Lord was heavily injured this time, his defense was able to keep up. Their brains felt like they were stuck. It was very uncomfortable. Every single demon dweller looked at Long Fei, their eyes filled with fear. He was completely like a madman. And at that moment, the devil fire on the devil's body suddenly exploded. It was as if his body had disappeared into the devil fire. The devil's rage was heavy as he said, "Brat, I will kill you." Boom, boom, rumble. The demonic flames continued to erupt, covering the entire valley in the blink of an eye. The Xinchalong's sword moved slightly and landed beside Long Fei, saying, "Master, be careful. This guy cultivates the great devil transformation art, and his body is hidden in the devil energy, able to launch attacks at any time." The Xinchalong's sword could react to it, but Long Fei could not react in time, and the dragon sword's reaction wasn't able to help Long Fei block it in time. However, the Xinchalong's sword was incomparably careful. His sword intent was also indistinctly released. Long Fei was not afraid. With a heavy voice, he said, "A cowardly turtle? The big devil, right? Grandson, your father is standing here. If you have the guts, come and fuck me. If I move, your father will be your grandson." Long Fei said with a cold smile, and extremely disdainful. Competing in speed? Long Fei couldn't even compare to him. Competing on reaction speed? Long Fei couldn't compare to it either. No matter what, Long Fei would always be pressed down by the great devil and rub against the ground. He could only compete in one move. Let's bet on one move. You don't dare? Still afraid? Long Fei continued to ridicule. Dragon sword, walk farther, 100 meters away. Otherwise, I'm afraid that this grandson will continue to hide in the demon chi and not dare to come out. You're still a demon, even like this? Or was it the magic tribe? You must be from the devil Eggy race, right? The Xinchalong's sword trembled slightly and said in a low voice, "Master, you are not his match." Long Fei said, "To deal with this kind of trash, one of my hands is enough. Dragon sword, if I told you to go, then go. I want to see just how capable this big devil is." Long Fei's eyes moved. The Xinchalong's sword understood, but he was really worried. However, he was still flying away from Long Fei and was less than 100 meters away from him. This was his limit. Right after the dragon's sword left Long Fei's side, the great devil's vigorous roar sounded. "Arrogant child, die for me." As soon as he finished speaking, the demonic energy in the valley suddenly gathered. Lord of Great Devil appeared in front of Long Fei and used his palms as an illusion. Buzz! With a powerful explosion of energy, the scarlet palm struck towards Long Fei. This power, not to mention the destruction of the world, at least the peak powerhouse could kill him in an instant. Long Fei clenched his right fist tightly and thought to himself, "Brother, I'm betting on this punch of yours." He could only bet on this punch. Success, he was alive, and 2 more levels up. Failed, he died. From then on, Long Fei no longer existed in this world. There was no other way. If he did not bet, the chances of Long Fei surviving was still very small. Plus, how could Long Fei let such a boss, with 500 million experience, suddenly leveling up to level 2? Moreover, when he leveled up, the next time he would encounter her, he wouldn't have such a high level of experience. Don't submit, just do it. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions exploded out from within his right arm. Long Fei remained motionless as he sent a fist out. Let's F Asterisk King see who is actually going to die. Bam! Match hand with me? Ha ha ha. Kid, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Die! He was a little afraid of the Xinchalong's sword, but now that the dragon sword was not by Long Fei's side, he did not have any qualms. What was even more unexpected was that Long Fei actually exchanged blows with him. It was like a bunk next to the latrine, not too far from death. However, who died? Chapter 2954, One Punch Out Universal Realm. Chapter 2954, One Punch Out Universal Realm Emperor Strawman. Long Fei, who was at the 6th level of the Soul Realm. The level difference was several tens of levels. In the game, it could be said that no matter how coquettish your position was or how godly your equipment was, you wouldn't be able to kill them. You would only be instantly killed. It was the same in Universal Realm. It was impossible to defeat him. More importantly, this was a head-on clash. Palm to fist, just like that. There was no chance of winning at all. Unlike the Red Devil Lord, which could be considered as Long Fei's move, the two of them could be considered to have sneak attacked each other, but the two of them could be considered to have clashed head-on with the Lord of Great Devil. Die or born. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In the sky, endless explosions of fury were being heard. The crimson palm imprint surged forward, causing the surrounding 100 meters to tremble. This power was extremely frightening. Moreover, in order for Lord of Great Devil to prevent the Xinchalong sword from attacking, this palm strike of his could be said to use up all of his strength. He wanted to kill Long Fei in one hit. Trash! Die for me! Lord of Great Devil roared again. He moved, his palms piercing through the air, attacking towards Long Fei's chest. Ferocious strength. It was fast, a crushing defeat. He instantly rushed in front of Long Fei and smashed his palms down. The Xinchalong sword moved in the air and roared loudly. Master! However, no matter how fast he was, it was too late. Also at this moment, Long Fei's right fist moved. Seeing Lord of Great Devil's palms fall down, the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Facing such a huge power pressure, he did not feel any fear, but instead wanted to laugh like a madman. All of this fell into his trap. What he wanted was to be tough. What he needed was a straight front. Buzz! The 18 ancient giant demons struggling inside the big Master Guard arm, as if all of their struggling power was channeled into Long Fei's fist. The two forces clashed. Buzz! With an explosive sound, a powerful shockwave soared into the sky, as if two heavens were colliding with each other. Strength burst forth. Mad thunder roared in all four directions in the sky. Ha ha! Ha ha! Lord of Great Devil laughed out wildly. You overestimate yourself. You actually dare to go up against me with your cultivation? Ha ha! Burn to smithereens for me. He put more strength into his palms. He wanted to turn Long Fei into fine powder. However, without waiting for Lord of Great Devil to release his power, his body suddenly sank. Both of his eyes popped out, as if his eyeballs were about to pop out. Suddenly, his body did not move at all, and he stood rooted to the spot as if he was a fool. Half a second, Lord of Great Devil's Adam's apple moved slightly, and his eyes trembled. He said solemnly, No, no, impossible, absolutely, absolutely. Before he could finish speaking, Lord of Great Devil flew straight up into the sky. They flew higher and higher. As he flew higher and higher, his body slowly turned into a black dot. In the end, his entire body released a ray of starlight and disappeared into the sky. At this moment, Long Fei lowered his body slightly and threw a punch upwards. His posture was very cool and handsome. Up hook and punch. Long Fei enunciated every word with killing intent. He slightly raised his eyes, laughed coldly, and said, You should go along with the line. I will definitely be back. However, you have no chance. In another plane, in a small plane beside the universal realm, a kid riding on a cow looked at the sky and said, Hi G, look, there's someone flying in the sky. You really weren't bragging just now. There's really someone that can fly. The cowherd was excited. Another youth said proudly, Of course. What have I ever boasted? And then, the youth had some doubt in his eyes as he looked towards the sky. Rumble. The corner of his mouth twitched a few times. This isn't flying, I've seen hail falling from the sky due to rain, but why is there someone here? Boom! He was scared silly. Without waiting for him to escape, the corpse pressed down on the youth. Lord of Great Devil looked up into the sky, his eyes filled with fear, his lips trembling slightly. He wanted to say something, but no words would come out. Finally, his head tilted slightly and his hair fell in a ponytail. At the same time, ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Lord of Great Devil for obtaining 600 million experience, 1 million true spiritual value, and 1 universal value. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Blood Soul Palm. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up, currently at the 7th level of the Astral Soul Realm. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up, currently at the 8th level of the Astral Soul Realm. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Mother's Soul is at level 9. Berserk rank 3. This feeling, that's too much. Apart from the pa, there was nothing more satisfying than leveling up. Actually, Long Fei looked at the night sky and muttered, I really want to know where he flew off to. If he knew that Lord of Great Devil had been forced out of Universal Realm with a single punch, he would probably be an idiot himself. Then again, Long Fei also wanted to know whether the punch, just now, was a normal attack or an extremely strong attack from the big Master Guard arm. It was a little hard to bear. The Xinchalong's sword landed beside Long Fei. He was also stunned and immediately asked, Master, are you all right? I'm fine. Long Fei clapped his hands. In fact, he did have something to do, since the power of the big Master Guard arm was not used to attack nor defend. He had also received the Lord of Great Devil's attack, but he had leveled up. Level up meant a full recovery and revival. Damage? It doesn't exist. Long Fei's gaze swept across them. Looking at the disciples of Magic Tribe in the forest, he asked solemnly, Who else? Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, those disciples of Magic Tribe figures all ran away as if they had seen a ghost. Not to mention revenge, they felt that their parents had given birth to less than 2 legs. At the same time, Long Fei also let out a deep breath. Phew, thank goodness I'm done. Otherwise, this year's dinner would be really tough. Long Fei muttered. Killing Red Devil Lord was by relying on the Weasel's illusion techniques. Killing Purple Devil Lord by relying on the Xinchalong sword's Dragon Slash. Killing Lord of Great Devil by relying on the power of the big Master Guard arm. These were all not his own power. Moreover, these are unstable forces. Not every time. If it was those disciples of Magic Tribe S who attacked him together, Long Fei had no confidence that he would be able to survive until tomorrow. And it was a level. Level was definitely a hard hit. I still need to speed up my cultivation. Also, I need to figure out what exactly is going on with the power of the big Master Guard arm. Long Fei muttered in his heart. Then he looked at the ruined valley and said, The Appreciation Assembly. It's become a meeting of the dead. Long Fei brought the Xinchalong sword and walked out of the valley. Inside the crevice, a mass of black fog silently floated out and turned into a wisp of black smoke before disappearing into the night. Chapter 2955, Pulling on a Beautiful Woman. Chapter 2955, Pulling on a Beautiful Woman, Grand Court. Grand Court. Long Fei searched around the valley a few times, but didn't find Grand Court. Moreover, at that time, he was so close, as long as he was met with the disciples of Magic Tribe, he probably would not live. Sigh, it's going to be difficult now. I don't even know how to get back now. Long Fei was puzzled. The flying shuttle was kept by the Xian Wu Pavilion. So how could he leave this place without a flying shuttle on him? The key was, did not even know what kind of place this was. Furthermore, what was even more troublesome was that if the Xian Wu Pavilion of the Xian Wu Pavilion was truly dead, then how could he say that he was returning home in the morning? Would the elders of Xian Wu Pavilion let him go? Then there was the matter of the God's Design Attic. Thinking about all these, Long Fei felt his scalp tingle. Thinking about the God's Design Attic, Long Fei took out the order badge and muttered, Is there really a route to the God's Design Attic above here? The idea moved. Long Fei's idea entered the center of the God's Design token, and her mind was secretly shocked. Wah, this is a huge fairyland, a huge space. What is this? A ball of 7-colored flame floated within the world of the command medallion. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Heaven's secret fire. The system sounded out, causing Long Fei to understand. Heaven's secret? For refining weapons? Looking at the attribute of the Heaven's secret fire, Long Fei was secretly speechless. Damn, God-tier flame, a holy artifact that is used for smithing? God's Design Attic is indeed generous. He immediately started to refine the divine level holy flames. It looks like there are a lot of divine treasures in this God's Design Attic. If they were all reclaimed by me, I wonder how much experience would they reclaim? Haha. Long Fei became evil. Unless it was for his own use, Long Fei would reclaim everything into his experience points. God's Design Attic was known as the place with the most divine treasures beneath the God's tribe. It was definitely a place with divine treasures like a mountain. Who knows, maybe Long Fei could even risk his life to cultivate for a year outside, and it might not even be enough to retrieve a divine treasure's experience points within the God's Design Attic. The map is here. When I have time in the future, I will definitely go to God's Design Attic. Long Fei became excited. Right now, he didn't want to go to God's Design Attic. Firstly, Lan Mei, Su Su, and the others were still in the fairy city. Secondly, his current cultivation level was too low. The 4 disciples of the God's Design Attic were all Royal Realm-esque. What if his cultivation was used to retrieve one of God's Design Attic's divine treasures? At least he could protect himself, right? Third, he promised Yuan Tianwang that he would participate in the Factory Sect selection. Factory Sect was a big sect in the western regions. It could not be considered the strongest, but it could be considered a top existence. There were many books in the Factory Sect that recorded everything about the universal realm. For example, the position of the Xiaoyao city. And then again, the Factory Sect could provide him with a lot of leveling areas. So no matter how much time passed, he would always be scared. If he had a teacher to guide him, would he be faster and would be able to absorb more experience? Long Fei had a lot of things to do, one at a time. What he needed to do the most now was to find a way back to the fairy city. However, after walking for 3 consecutive days, Long Fei was also unable to find a path. He was still deep in the mountains. If only there were ice and fire. Sigh, next time I have money, I must buy a flying shuttle. Otherwise, I must catch a flying bird. This way, my walking speed will be too slow. Right, if only Elder Swordsman had taught me the Imperial sword technique. Long Fei muttered to himself as he walked listlessly in no direction. Another few days passed. Climbing over mountains after mountains, there was still no sign of humans. Along the way, countless demon beasts were killed by him, but these demon beasts' level was too low, and there were almost no experience points present. Moreover, his clothes were torn, and his face was covered in filth. His hair was messy, and he looked like a wild man. Sigh, I can't take it anymore. I'm such a handsome and cool man. I have a peerless game system. I kill gods and gods, but today I meet Buddha. How depressing it is for me to be trapped here. If there really are hundreds of millions of kilometers in this mountain, then lousy. Long Fei felt his scalp tingling and his eyes becoming dizzy. He could not take it anymore. Goo goo. His stomach began to sing. Hungry again. These days. What the F***CK? Long Fei complained and then picked up some firewood to start fire. He privately grilled a piece of leg of the tiger that he had just killed over the fire. Fortunately, there are a lot of seasonings. Long Fei muttered to himself. He was used to living in the wild. Therefore, they usually brought a lot of daily necessities. Who asked him to be the system host for killing monsters and leveling up? Not long later, the barbecue would give off an alluring aroma. Long Fei cut off a small piece of oily roast meat and put it in his mouth to chew. It was extremely tasty. If there's a sis around, it will be good as well. At least we can chat. However, before he could finish his words, a woman in white clothes quietly landed behind him. Looking at the roasted meat on the fire rack that gave off a fragrance that made people swallow their saliva, they asked, "Are you selling this roasted meat?" "Gudon, gudon." The crisp sound of someone swallowing their saliva. Long Fei was shocked. He turned his head around quickly and looked at the beautiful woman dressed in white, his eyes staring straight ahead. The girl in front of him was really a bit breathtakingly beautiful. He was just like a fairy that didn't eat the world. In that instant, even Long Fei was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe his eyes. How could there be such a beautiful woman in this deep forest? Isn't this too surprising? The woman asked again, "Are you selling this roast meat?" Long Fei did not answer, but asked, "Are you a human or a ghost, or a fairy that just descended from the heavens?" The woman pursed her lips and smiled. "I just passed by them and came up to them because of the smell." Passing by from below? Long Fei was startled. He stood up and walked forward a few steps. then discovered a mountain path not far away. His entire body became excited, as though he had seen the advertisement on the teleportation pole and knew that he had been cured of his many years of illness. I finally saw the road. I finally saw the road. It's been almost 10 days. I. Long Fei was too excited to say anything. Because he was too excited, he inadvertently grabbed the white-clothed female's hand and jumped up in excitement. The woman in white didn't struggle, but smiled kindly. However, at this moment, a cold light flashed. A ray of killing intent suddenly attacked, and heavily shouted, "Beast, demon beast, you actually dare to harm Qing Er. Give me your life." As soon as his voice faded, sword light burst forth. And also at that moment, an imposing aura attacked, enveloping Long Fei within. In an instant, Long Fei felt as if he had fallen into a death trap. Most importantly, Long Fei was too excited and did not react in time. By the time he could react, the sword was already at his back. A cold shiver went down his spine. Long Fei's mind suddenly moved. The dragon sword released a buzzing sound, but without waiting for Long Fei to retaliate, the lady in white suddenly moved and pulled Long Fei to her side. Long Fei fell in the white-clothed female's arms. Wow. He was immediately pulled into his arms. This sort of treatment, this was the first time for Long Fei. He never expected that the young girl would have such great strength and that his own body would crash in her bosom in an instant. Moreover, at this time, the white-clothed girl's sleeve moved and a thin sword appeared in her hand. Clang! The two swords clashed, and the white-clothed female's thin sword slightly trembled, blocking the young man's long sword, and said, "Qin Shuang, he is a human." The young man stared at Long Fei, who was being pulled into the woman's embrace. The anger in his heart almost burned his head. If looks could kill, then Long Fei had already died 10,000 times. I have never been treated like this, but I was treated like this by a barbarian. Qin Shuang was furious and said solemnly, "Qing Er, even if he is human, he is still a savage. Look at him, or else he is a savage, or else a murderer is hiding on this mountain. I can say that he is definitely not a good person." Long Fei revealed a fearful expression and said, "I didn't kill anyone. I helped the crippled old Wang next door to find the lost pig to enter the mountain. I'm a good person. After walking in this deep mountain for 10 days, I thought that I would not be able to leave." As he spoke, he had a sorrowful look on his face. His expression was clear. His acting was perfect. Long Fei would never show off his previous acting if he was not an Oscar actor. The white-clothed female was completely fooled by Long Fei. She immediately consoled him and said, "Don't be scared. I'll protect you. Qin Shuang, you heard it. I forbid you to touch him." Qin Shuang's eyes sunk. His teeth chattered loudly. "Qing Er, don't be fooled by him." The lady in white said, "Why would he lie to me when he's fine? Look at how pitiful he is. Don't be afraid. I'll get you out of here." The white-clothed woman had a face full of kindness. Long Fei could feel a unique aura from her body. Qin Shuang was so angry that he was about to stamp his feet. He looked at Long Fei with a heavy gaze and took out a few grand mist crystals from his bosom and threw them at Long Fei's feet. Long Fei revealed a look of fear again and slowly retreated. He sneered in his heart. "Your sister, you want to send this father away with just a few grand mist crystals? Let alone a few grand mist crystals. Even if several 100 million were placed in front of me, this old man still wouldn't leave." The white-clothed female said with a displeased expression, "Qin Shuang, if you continue to be like this, I'll be angry." "Qing Er, don't." Qin Shuang's expression became anxious, and his tone slightly changed. He looked at Long Fei and asked, "Where are you from?" Long Fei casually made up a village and said Lu Jia Village. Qin Shuang said, "Okay, I will send you back to Lu Jia Village." "Humph." And then, Qin Shuang flung his sleeves and walked down the mountain with large strides. The white-clothed female looked at Qin Shuang and said, "Don't be afraid, he's like this." "Right, your barbecue." Long Fei immediately said, "I don't want money. You can eat whatever you want. The woman in white swallowed her saliva and said, "Then I won't be polite." As he spoke, he tore off a piece of roasted meat and began to eat it slowly. His eyes flickered with excitement as he said, "So delicious. I've never eaten anything so delicious before." It wasn't that she hadn't eaten, but that she hadn't eaten anything at all. Ever since she was young, she had never eaten anything that could fill her stomach. It was a tonic made from various elixirs to save her time for eating. Long Fei also felt it. The woman in white's cultivation wasn't low. In the instant he was grabbed by her, Long Fei could feel the dense power from the woman in white's body. Long Fei laughed. "I'll roast however much you want to eat in the future." The lady in white said, "Thank you." Long Fei said, "Just now, you saved me, so it is only my duty to repay you. I wonder where you are going." The lady in white did not think much of it, and said, "We will go to God's Devil City to complete the mission." Long Fei's heart was secretly shocked, and his face was filled with astonishment. "Sect mission? Then what sex disciple are you?" The white-clothed female looked at Long Fei's shocked expression and said, "We are Fatry sect's disciples." Fatry sect. Long Fei was even more shocked. After all, the Fatry sect was her sect, and she liked this place. She asked, "Do you know the Fatry sect?" Long Fei nodded his head and said, "I know, big sect, who doesn't know? Will we be going back then?" The woman in white said, "We don't know about that yet. We need to complete our mission before we can go back. Otherwise, we'd be busy." Long Fei gently, regarding God's Devil City, Long Fei, he also had some understanding in the East Imperial City. Even though it was called a city, it was still a bandit's nest. He was domineering and committed all sorts of crimes. A place of sin. Long Fei never thought that he would run into disciples of the Fatry sect as here. The distance between them was not far. If he could return together with them, it would be much easier. Looking at the beautiful little sister Fatry sect, Long Fei became even more determined. "I have to enter the Fatry sect." He followed the white-clothed woman down the mountain and onto the mountain path. There were 3 more disciples on the mountain path. Seeing Long Fei walk down, a young disciple revealed a look of contempt and said, "Senior fellow Qin, he is that savage beast?" "You don't say." If I had met him in the forest, I would have really thought of him as a demon beast and killed him instantly. Another female disciple also revealed a look of disdain. To protect such a savage beast, Junior Sister Chu is truly a lover. He really won't spare anyone. Qin Shuang's eyes turned sinister. The woman snorted coldly and said nothing. The lady in white was called Chu Qing. Of the 5, she was the youngest. Chu Qing said, "I already said, he is not some savage beast. He just got lost deep in the mountains." "Right. He even gave me barbecue. It's so delicious. Do you guys want to eat it?" Chu Qing said with a serious face. Qin Shuang said in disdain, "Even my dog wouldn't spare a single glance at this kind of trash food." "Exactly. Junior Sister Chu, we're disciples of the Fatry sect. Eating these trash will only waste our time and destroy our energy. I feel sick just by looking at it." The 3 of them began to despise him. The other man took a step forward and said, "Give me a bit. I haven't eaten meat in a long time." Chu Qing nodded happily. He tore off a piece of barbecue for the man and excitedly asked, "How is it? Is it delicious?" He. The man said, "That's right. Little brother, the meat is quite good. Thank you." As a form of greeting to Long Fei nodded and smiled. The other 3 looked down on him. Qin Shuang walked in front of Long Fei and said, "Brat, remember, once you reach Lujia village, immediately scram. Otherwise," staring at the other party with widened eyes, Zhang Xian clenched his fists tightly as the strength in his body surged. In an instant, he suppressed the other party's fist. Long Fei's body slightly trembled. The Xinchalong sword immediately said, "His cultivation is at the 6th level of the Emperor realm, and is also the highest among these people. Master, do you want me to kill him?" Chapter 2957, Surround. Chapter 2957, surround Xinqialong's sword was very irritable. Based on his character, Qin Shuang and the other two were already 3 corpses. The power of Xinqialong's sword could be said to be extremely easy to instantly kill. Long Fei was very clear on this point. When he had heavily injured the Emperor Strongman with a dragon slash, these people were only royal realm. Killing them in an instant was too easy. However, Long Fei was not a homicidal maniac. As long as they didn't cross his bottom line, he wouldn't be tempted to kill. Long Fei said, "There's no rush." The Xinqialong's sword did not speak. Chu Qing smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. That is what senior brother Qin Shuang is like. Your barbecue is great. It's the most delicious thing I've ever eaten since young, senior brother Zheng, right?" Zheng Yuanhang said, "Indeed, it's not bad. It's even more fragrant than the Xian crystal meat." "Humph!" Qin Shuang coldly snorted again, rolled his eyes, and said to Zheng Yuanhang, "Have you eaten your fill? If you're done eating, then hurry up and leave. We didn't bring you here to chat while watching the scenery." Zheng Yuanhang immediately swallowed all of the roasted meat and quickly ran forward. Chu Qing said in a low voice, "Senior brother Zheng's perception is extremely strong. He can let us successfully avoid danger. Now that we have entered the territory of the gods' devil city, we have to be careful. Don't be afraid. If you encounter any danger, just hide behind me. I will protect you." Chu Qing squinted her eyes like 2 crescent moons. Very cute. She was too kind. Long Fei felt warmth in his heart and said, "Amen." Under Jing Yuanhang's senses, they dodged the gods' devil city's secret sentry. After one day, they were less than 3 kilometers away from God's Devil City. In the dense forest, they could already see the city gate in the distance. "Rest for the night. We'll enter the city tomorrow." Qin Shuang lowered his voice, stared at Long Fei, and said, "Kid, I don't care if it's your Lu family or some dog family. When the day is bright, you better scram. If you break our mission, I will definitely not forgive you." "Humph!" Qin Shuang coldly snorted. Chu Qing comforted her. "Don't worry. Just wait for me here tomorrow. After we finish our sex mission, I will come here to look for you, and then send you back to Lu Jia village." Long Fei laughed. "Thank you." Chu Qing smiled and said, "You're welcome. I've eaten your roast meat, so of course I'll help you. Qing Er, this kind of person is not worth for you to help him out. Look at him. You guys are destined to not be from the same world. At that time, I'll just give him some money and let him go home by himself." Chu Qing asked, "Why are they not from the same world? Aren't we all in universal realm?" "Senior fellow Qin, you can't be prejudiced against other people. This is something Master taught you." 30 years in the river. 30 years in the river. In the West, anything can happen in the world of martial arts. "Ha ha!" Qin Shuang sneered and said, "You are right. 30 years in the river. 30 years in the river. In the West, any kind of miracle can happen in the world of martial arts, but it would never happen to someone like him. Kid, there's bound to be no miracle on your body. There's a saying that trash will always be trash and will never change." Qin Shuang ruthlessly said with contempt. Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "Some people can't even be compared to trash." Both of Qin Shuang's eyes were filled with anger as he stared at Long Fei. "Kid, who did you say is worse than trash?" Long Fei did not cower and directly said, "I was talking about you. You're courting death." Qin Shuang moved his cold sword and was about to pull out. It was also at this time. Zheng Yuanhang suddenly rushed out. With a heavy voice, he said, "Oh no, we are surrounded," not waiting for him to finish. Boom, boom, boom. 100 meters away, countless torches were lit, surrounding them in the center. A deep voice sounded out. "I have long heard that someone from the Fatry sect wants my life, and I was so scared that I didn't dare to go out for this period of time. I didn't expect. It's you little bastards. Just you brats want my life? Ha!" He began to laugh maniacally. Zheng Yuanhang ran over while gasping for breath. "What do we do?" Qin Shuang's eyes darkened, and he said, "Isn't your sensing ability able to cover 10 kilometers? Why don't they even know how to get close to it?" The woman said, "There's a spy among us?" In that instant, Qin Shuang moved. He pointed his ice sword, and instantly pointed at the center of Long Fei's forehead, saying angrily, "Kid, I knew that something was wrong with you. You are the spy." Immediately, the lady and the other man immediately pulled out their weapons and looked at Long Fei. Long Fei did not speak, because, at this moment, the Xinchalong sword was speaking. "Master, there are 360 people. These are all wicked people with extremely high cultivation. The lowest is at the saint level, and the highest is at the emperor level. With just a few royal realm-s, they were simply unable to deal with that powerhouse." Long Fei moved and said, "Is there a way?" The Xinchalong sword said, "If you want to escape without casualties, the only way is to escape. The west is the breakthrough." Chu Qing protected Long Fei by his side and said, "He was with us along the way. How could he be a spy?" She did not believe that a man who could roast meat so delicious could be a spy. "He's not a spy. Do you think the five of us have spies?" Qin Shuang roared, his eyes filled with killing intent, as though he wanted to pierce through Long Fei's forehead with his sword. Long Fei looked at Chu Qing and said, "Do you trust me?" Chu Qing did not hesitate and nodded. "I believe you." "All right, then come with me later. If you want to live, then come with me." Long Fei turned and ran towards the west. Qin Shuang's eyes turned sinister. "You want to escape? Give me your life." The sword shocked the air. Chu Qing stared blankly at her, and once again blocked her. Qin Shuang said with incomparable fury, "Qinga, what are you trying to do?" Chu Qing said, "I believe that he is not a spy." Looking at Long Fei's back that was about to disappear, Chu Qing said slightly, "Let's believe in him first. What if he can bring us away?" Finished. Chu Qing chased after him. Zheng Yuanhang also said slightly, "Senior fellow Qin, think of another way first." Soon after, Zheng Yuanhang also followed. Qin Shuang's eyes tensed up. "Senior fellow Qin, what should we do? I don't really trust that kid. How about bringing us into the encirclement?" Qin Shuang said solemnly, "We are already surrounded. What other encirclement are there? Follow first. If anything goes wrong, kill him immediately." Both of them nodded heavily. The three of them also quickly followed. Long Fei felt like there was a navigation tool in his mind. "Turn left. To the right. There's a ravine ahead. Jump down." Long Fei did not hesitate and directly jumped down. Chapter 2958. You want your father to die? Chapter 2958. You want your father to die? Xinchalong's sword is a super navigation system. It was even more accurate than the map of God from his previous life. Even, Long Fei thought that the Xinchalong sword was just looking at the map and leaving. Actually, what he did not know was that the dragon soul of the Xinchalong sword was exploring the path ahead of Long Fei. Every second, every step was exceptionally precise. Nothing could go wrong. Standing at the edge of the ravine, he saw Long Fei jumping down. Qin Shuang looked at the unfathomable deep ravine and shouted angrily, "Brat, you want us all to fall to our deaths?" Zheng Yuanhang immediately said, "They're catching up." Chu Qing clenched his fists, and his entire body jumped down. Long Fei was waiting below. Chu Qing immediately said after landing, "Jump, it's very safe down there." Zheng Yuanhang also jumped down. Qin Shuang and the others finally caught up. Long Fei went deeper into the ravine. Qin Shuang was speechless again. "Do you want to bring us to a dead end? Once the people of God's Devil City attack, we will die." Long Fei was too lazy to bother with him. He just needed to make sure that Chu Qing would follow along. Long Fei did not care about the other people's lives. If not for Chu Qing, Long Fei would have escaped long ago. "You dog!" Seeing Long Fei ignoring him, the anger in Qin Shuang's heart grew even stronger, and he said, "I want to see where you bringing us to." Deep within the ravine, there was an exit to a cave. Through the cave, he could be considered to have completely escaped. Long Fei pretended to be panting and said, "All right, all right, all right, we've escaped." At this moment, they could no longer hear the voices of the group of God's Devil City. Chu Qing's face was also flushed red as she said, "Thank you." Long Fei waved his hand. "You're welcome." At this time, Qin Shuang quickly walked forward, pointed at Long Fei, and heavily said with a move of his long sword, "Speak. What is the relationship between you and the gods' devil city?" Everyone was shocked. Long Fei slightly raised his eyes. Along the way, he kept talking nonstop, and even pointed his F***king's sword at him time and time again. He was in a rather bad mood. Chu Qing asked, "Senior fellow Qin, what are you doing? If it wasn't for him, we probably would have all died." "Humph. This is God's Devil City's territory, but he is so familiar with the terrain here. Do you dare to say that this has nothing to do with God's Devil City?" Qin Shuang replied heavily. Chu Qing was also secretly startled and looked at Long Fei. I already knew he had a problem. The corner of Long Fei's mouth curled up as he sneered. "I just want to ask, are you guys still alive?" Zheng Yuanhang slightly said, "If it wasn't for him in that situation earlier, we really would have lost our lives." Long Fei continued, "I saved your lives. If you want to thank me, then forget it, but still point the sword at me. You're really F***king awesome. I'll give you a warning. I'll remember it. If you use your sword to point at Lousy again, I will break your hand." Finished. Long Fei stared at Qin Shuang like a god. Buzz! Qin Shuang's mind suddenly trembled. He did not dare to look straight into Long Fei's eyes. For some reason, an extremely strong sense of fear arose in his heart, and he subconsciously kept his sword. It was as if his hand would break if he pointed at Long Fei for one more second. After a few seconds, the fear in Qin Shuang's mind disappeared, and in his heart, he was startled. What happened to me? Why would you be afraid of a country bumpkin?" He was extremely confused. However, that feeling of fear just now was too unbearable. "Senior fellow Qin, what's wrong? That brat actually dares to speak to you like that. Just send him to the heavens with a single slash." "What is it?" A woman and a man spoke in a deep voice. Qin Shuang did not speak anymore. He gnashed his teeth in his heart, and his hatred for Long Fei grew even more. "This mission is too difficult for you. I think we should give it up," Long Fei said. It was too easy for an emperor strongman to deal with a nameless royal realm warrior. Moreover, there were even more powerhouse with higher cultivation than them. With their level of cultivation, it was almost impossible for them to complete this mission. Chu Qing shook his head and said, "That won't do. This is the sect's mission and also Master's assessment of us. If we don't complete it, Master will be unhappy. In addition, the people of the God's Devil City do all sorts of evil, kill, rob. Many of the surrounding villages and small towns have all died. If we do not get rid of the owner off God's Devil City, many more will die." She didn't even pay much attention to the previous tests, but thinking about how many more people had died made her sad. Long Fei asked, "Must you kill owner off God's Devil City?" Chu Qing nodded his head and said firmly, "Definitely." Long Fei secretly frowned. "Scared? That's normal. It's normal for a country bumpkin like you to be scared." A man walked up and mocked. "How could someone like you understand the thoughts of a powerhouse like us? How do you know the goals that we powerhouse pursue? In your country bumpkin world, we are high gods." "Humph," the man sneered. Fatry sect was an extremely powerful sect of the western regions, and it was an overlord level. To ordinary people, disciples of the Fatry sect were existences as high and mighty as gods. However, Long Fei simply disdained it. Qin Shuang walked over and said, "Owner off God's Devil City is indeed powerful. Emperor Strongman, if we want to take care of him, we cannot go head on against him. We still have treasures. It's not impossible." Chu Qing asked, "Senior fellow Qin, what method do you have?" Qin Shuang looked at Long Fei and said, "There is a way, but it requires the cooperation of someone." "How do we cooperate?" "As long as we can get rid of this owner off God's Devil City, this heinous villain, I am willing to cooperate." Chu Qing said with a kind expression. Qin Shuang said, "You won't do. You should know that the divine treasure master handed to us requires the 5 of us to activate it before we can unleash its full power." Chu Qing asked with doubt, "Really? Why haven't I heard of it from Master?" Qin Shuang said, Master only told me this matter. Chu Qing muttered, oh. Then, Qin Shuang looked at Long Fei and revealed a smile. Brother, I'm sorry about what happened just now. I was overthinking it. I apologize to you. I wonder if you would be willing to help us this time. Long Fei asked, how do I help? Qin Shuang said, it's very simple. Today we escaped. The owner of God's Devil City would never think that we would directly infiltrate the God's Devil City. You come with us. You lure the owner of God's Devil City out. We will activate the divine treasure and kill him. F***CK. Long Fei cursed in his heart, going around and around. So you want me to send you to your death? Without waiting for Long Fei's reply, Qin Shuang took out a bag of Grand Mist crystals and said, as long as you are willing, these 10,000 Grand Mist crystals are yours. It's enough for you to marry 10 wives and live your entire life. The corner of Long Fei's mouth curled up, gently smiled, and said, all right, I'll help. Qin Shuang's eyes flashed with a bright light as he thought to himself, Brat, you're dead this time, huh? That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.